Is it time?
It is time for us to do what we have been doing, and that time is every day.
We'll know in a very short period of time, but it looks like it could be something that will be not good. Believe me, not good.
I see issue with that. And again,
You're not going to be able to insult your way to the presidency. That's not going to happen.
I don't know who created Pokemon Go, but I'm trying to figure out how we get them to have Pokemon go to the polls.
I'm Ted Cruz, and my pronoun is kiss my ass.
So when you think about it, there is great significance to the passage of time in terms of what we need to do to lay these wires, what we need to do to create these jobs.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to foot.
Not good. Believe me, not good.
Hello, dissidents. Welcome one and all to a Sunday evening edition of the Do Dissidents, a podcast. Keaton Weiss here with Russell Dobular, of course.
hello.
Solar eclipse tomorrow on the East Coast. Bright sunny day in Los Angeles today. I'm supposed to be excited about the solar eclipse. So what do I care about the solar eclipse?
You know, I saw the last one.
It's weird.
And
it's unpleasant.
I feel like I saw one already.
I don't like it. I don't like it when it gets dark in the middle of the day.
Yeah, that's the deal with the last one. That's why it was such a big deal, because it was an exceptionally long solar eclipse for some reason, I think.
Yeah.
So everybody was into that one.
Yeah.
This shit, I mean, how long is it going to be? A couple minutes? Who cares?
I personally like my daytimes as daytimes. I don't like nighttime in the middle of the day and then back to daytime.
It doesn't matter for you. You're a day walker.
Yeah, I like my days normal.
You
I don't
you
like
are the one who can walk
shit.
in both day and night.
Yeah. Well, so what's a lunar eclipse? What happens in a lunar eclipse?
Right. Well, clearly the moon would disappear.
The moon disappears where?
This is
in a night sky?
Yeah. Well,
that's
where
not
else
exciting.
would it disappear?
Who cares about that?
There's
some nights you can't see the moon anyway if it's cloudy out. I guess the lunar eclipse is the suckier eclipse.
This is the strongest argument yet that we're qualified to do political commentary.
Yeah.
Yeah, not knowing what a lunar eclipse is.
I mean, I always get confused. Goes. One passes between the other, so we can't see. So this is the moon. The moon is going to pass between the sun and the Earth. Is that what's going to happen?
Yes.
And that's going to block the sun, so we're not going to be able to see the sun, so it's going to get dark out.
I think we need Jake to weigh in on this. Jake is science-y. Jake could tell us.
Yeah, Jake, what happens? Turn your mic on and tell us what happens. Where's Jake?
He quit.
He quit?
He quit in horror.
I have to add myself to the stage. Sorry.
That's all right. Those are our Rumble view counts. Oh, by the way, before you start, now that we have our Rumble view counts, that's the handy app that Jake made us. Look at that. How do you like that? Let's do a headbang, Russell.
Oh, yeah, we yelled them.
Yeah. 896 on Rumble, 1020 on YouTube. There we go.
A left-handed path, baby.
So, Jake, I'm sorry. So what's a solar eclipse?
Solar eclipse is when the moon gets between the sun and the earth.
Yeah, so that's all. Okay.
See shit.
Right. And then the lunar eclipse is when the Earth. No, the lunar. Yeah, so the lunar eclipse is when the Earth gets between the sun and the moon.
Yes.
Right. So we can't see the moon because it's in shadow.
Correct.
All right. Thanks, Jake. Round of applause for Jake, everybody.
Science consultant Jake.
Science consultant Jake. Yes. Science expert Jake can explain to us the arrangement of the celestial objects during both a solar and lunar eclipse. How good is Jake? See, that's why we trust him on matters of global warming and stuff like that. I mean, how could you? Yeah, I mean that's the source right there.
Keaton went to high school, but not college. I went to college, but not high school. So between the two of us, we don't know what the fuck a lunar eclipse
yeah,
is.
That's right. That's right. That's true. I went to high school, but not college. You went to college, but not high school. Funny how that goes, isn't it? We got a great show for you all tonight. We got a lot to get to, and so we are going to jump right in just a moment. Russell went and saw a musical in Los Angeles yesterday, right?
That's right.
Saw the musical.
Saw the musical. That was the gayest show in which a man cuts off his own foot you will ever see.
Yes, there you go. That's a good way to describe that. Perfect.
If you are a member of the LGBT community who likes blood spurts on stage, that is the show for you.
Yes.
They played it that there were, it's the first movie, so they played it that there was a gay attraction between them.
Nice.
Kind of gay camp.
Yeah, I could see how something like that could develop in a situation like that.
In a situation like that, I mean, who else are you going to go to, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Could be the last chance you got.
Last chance you got. That's right. Matt Ho just messaged us back.
Somebody in the shorts,
Yeah,
that's the time.
Looks like we're going to have Matt Ho on the show on Thursday, everybody. Old friend of the show, Matt Ho, Green Party candidate in North Carolina. He's going to Turkey soon to help with Gazan refugees. And so big round of applause for Matt Ho for doing that work. And we're going to talk to him about his trip. Looks like Thursday morning that's going to happen. So I just messaged him back. So that's almost certainly in the books. One bit of housekeeping that I want to get to before we start tonight is Russell and I will be in the Bronx on April 20th, 420 on Saturday, getting work done for our friend Jose Vega. Jose is, of course, running for Congress as an independent against Richie Torres. And so if you go to votevega.nyc and hit the volunteer tab, that will take you to get signed up to volunteer to help collect signatures, because the signature date starts April 16th. So votevega.nyc and click volunteer. Or if you want to sign up for a tutorial, because it's very specific how you have to do it, you can go to vegaforcongress.nationbuilder.com and you can sign up to take a tutorial.
Grab the guy's head, you push it into the fucking car hood, you sign this fucking petition, motherfucker. Yeah. That's how we do it in the Bronx.
Right. That's how we are inclined to do it. But unfortunately, laws being what they are, we are not allowed to, and we don't want to get Vega disqualified. So there's specific rules you have to follow. So please go there and sign up for a course. Russ and I will be in the Bronx on the 20th. We will have a time and place that we will announce as the date draws near. It'll probably be around Yankee Stadium, because there's a train stop right near Yankee Stadium, so I can get off the train and be right there, and that's in Jose's district. And that's a game day, so that'll be bustling that day. So there'll be a lot of people around. So hopefully we can get some people signed up. So you can go there to become a volunteer. So you're set up, and then come meet us. Come say hello to us. Come pound the pavement in the Bronx, in the Boogie Down Bronx with us on Saturday, April 20th. That is going to be a lot of fun. All right.
People are always saying we got to get away from the computers, get out onto the streets. Here's your chance. Come on out. Hopefully it'll be a nice spring day in New York. Fuck the Yankees. I'm from Flushing. But besides that, don't tell the Yankee fans I said that when I'm trying to get them to sign.
Yeah, right. Exactly. All right. Well, speaking of hitting the streets, Russell Dobular hit the streets of Los Angeles a couple days ago and went to do a little on-the-ground investigative reporting at the In-N-Out Burger. Why? Well, minimum wage for fast food workers was just raised in California. So this is Fox Business reports Burger King, In-N-Out, and other chain locations in California raise prices after minimum wage increase.
Oh, my God.
Report.
Absolute barbarity.
Absolute barbarity. Fox Business reports prices for burgers, fries, and other fast food items have increased at various restaurant chains across California, according to a recent report. A New York Post investigation revealed that some fast food chains in the Los Angeles area raised prices on April 1st after new California statewide legislation went into effect Monday, enforcing a $20 minimum wage for restaurants that have at least 60 locations nationwide, except those that make and sell their own bread. So I guess the Panera Gavin Newsom boyfriend loophole made it in there after all.
Okay, but then I read another article that said that the legislation does apply to Panera. So I'm not quite clear who the carve out is for. Is it for donut shops? Who are they protecting here if the Panera thing's not true?
Yeah, I'm not sure, because first I heard Panera, then I heard they were getting rid of that. Now it seems there are some exemptions. But anyway, we know In-N-Out is not exempt. Governor Gavin Newsom signed the legislation, AB 1228.
No, to be clear, I don't think this is in here, but this only applies to chains that have minimum 40 stores in the state.
Right, so it's big fast food chains.
Yeah, you'll see a lot of bullshit. Oh, the mom and pop shops. No, like this is only fast food franchises with minimum 40 restaurants.
Right. Governor Gavin Newsom signed the legislation, AB 1228, into law in September. In addition to the pay raises, it also establishes a fast food council, including representatives for both workers and employers, that can approve further pay increases and set standards for working conditions. Quote, the biggest leap was at Burger King, where a Texas double Whopper meal cost $15.09 on March 29th, but surged to $16.89 on April 1st, a whopping increase of $1.80, nearly 12% for the same meal, the Post reported. Some context, which we're going to get into a bit later in the segment, is that fast food prices had been just out of control before this. The Big Fish meal also jumped.
In states that did not increase the minimum wage.
Right. The Big Fish meal also jumped from $7.49 on the menu before April 1st to $11.49 after, an increase of $4, the report continued. I'm surprised they still sell that shit. Who buys a fish sandwich from Burger King? Most other items increased anywhere from 25 cents to $1.
Well, and who's going to buy it at that price?
At that price, yeah, especially. Hart House and In-N-Out Burger also saw price increases at certain locations. So, this was the tweet that went viral, 18.2 million views as of yesterday. California hiked the minimum wage to $20 per hour for fast food workers this week. You'll never guess what happened next. They raised prices by anywhere from, 25, 35, 10, 15 cents
the
per
most
menu
was
item.
25 cents, I think, on the double-double. And then here and there, they raised 15 cents, I think, on the cheeseburger. A nickel. Fries, they didn't raise at all. I think the shake they raised about 15 cents.
That's
and
right.
Yeah, man, it was carnage, man. It was carnage at the In-N-Out.
Well,
I went over there. I couldn't believe it. I'm a libertarian now. After what I witnessed at the In-N-Out Burger.
Let's see Russell Dobler on the ground at In-N-Out. We live stream this to Twitter, but we're going to play it for you guys right now. Let's see what the situation is now that prices have gone up a whopping 25 cents per double-double.
Wow, it is carnage here at the In-N-Out Burger. They raised those prices, and this is a ghost town. It's a ghost town here at the In-N-Out Burger. Look at this. Look at this. Sir, that 25-cent increase on the double-double didn't deter you from coming here?
It's our first time. No, it's our first time.
It's your first time? You weren't shocked by the prices? No?
Well, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
All right, so it didn't deter you from coming here?
No.
All right, good. You know, I thought it was going to be a ghost town. A big line of cars there. Huh. Let's see. I bet inside we'll see. It's going to be a ghost town. Oh my God, sir. The people haven't stopped coming here because of the price increases?
What price increase?
25 cents on the double-double.
Well, that's happened when people want minimum wage to go up.
Yeah. It doesn't look like it deterred anybody. Wow. Unbelievable, man. These people are willing to pay these outrageous prices in order to make sure that people have a living wage. Wow. Holy crap. It's almost like everything you're hearing in the media about this is total fucking bullshit. Who would have thought the media would lie about the consequences of raising wages for working people? I would never expect that. Well, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. That extra 25 cents do bite, but I'm gonna cough that up for my double-double. It is the first time I've gotten off the property, so I'm gonna indulge myself a little bit. So it is carnage here. Nobody can really afford it, but you know, I'm gonna kick up that 25 cents. I found it in a sewer outside. So fortunately, I can afford it. Oh, look, even this guy. See?
There you go. Reporting from In-N-Out Burger.
Okay, so I really built the case. If anyone, I see some people in the comments maybe didn't see those segments. We did 2 segments on this on the Jimmy Dore show explaining this. And, you get so often our criticism is of, just the batshit drooling liberal elite stuff. But, it sounds exactly the same from the other sector of the media.
You don't understand the damn economics. You don't understand the poor people. They have to fish toilet paper out of the back of the supermarket. That's how they're supposed to live.
All right. So listen, man. This is what I call a fucking peasant mentality. They got you going around talking like if poor people and workers get a raise, you are personally morally offended by it. Now, if you're not a working person, if you're a rich person, fair enough. I just advise you to build a moat and hope that the poors can't get past it when they finally come for you. If you're a working person talking that shit, you are the old Eddie Murphy joke about how his grandmother used to make him go get the stick in the backyard to beat his own ass with. You are a working person going to get the stick to beat your own ass. What do you think they're going to do with your jobs when the AI is really up and running? You think because you didn't ask for a raise, you're going to get to keep your job? They are going to fire you no matter what. Everyone's complaining about all the price increases in the supermarket, and we've seen from studies they didn't even have to increase prices like that. These supermarket chains are making record profits. Nobody asked for more wages. They will fuck you every way that you can. And if you continue in this vein where you're picking up these talking points that they have spent decades brainwashing working people with in order to make them very irrationally connect the condescending stuff from liberal class people, their cultural positions. I talk a lot about that. The next segment is kind of about that. I don't like that shit either. But they connected it with an economic philosophy that only benefits corporations and rich people. They actually brainwash people into saying, God damn it, I don't like gender neutral bathrooms, and on top of that, don't pay workers more. What the fuck do those things have to do with each other? What do they have to do with each other? Who do you think benefits from you believing that? Who do you think benefits from you believing that? I've had people so fucking moronic that they talked about how they ship the factories offshore. How are you going to offshore a Pizza Hut? Can you tell me that? Can you tell me how you're going to offshore a Taco Bell? If you look at the profits of these companies, it is not that they cannot afford to pay workers more. These companies over decades have gradually funneled all the profits up to the CEOs and put it into buybacks for the shareholders. That's where this money went. It's not that the money's not there. It's not that they have no choice but to go bankrupt if they have to pay workers. You know what? They make so much profit, they don't even have to really increase the prices for the most part. They're choosing to do it that way. They're choosing to pass it on to the consumer. So what you have to do as a worker, instead of listening to this fucking scumbag douchebag over at End Wokeness, who knows who the fuck pays that guy to tell you this shit, because yesterday he was able to get you really mad about Dylan Mulvaney, so now he's connecting this to that in your mind, even though the one has nothing to do with the other. If you really take out on these companies the same way that you acted towards Bud Light, the same way that you acted towards Target. You see anybody making ads like that now? You see any more ads like the Bud Light ad? So imagine if you applied it to something that actually affects your life, unlike Dylan Mulvaney, who you're never going to meet, who's going to have very little impact on your actual life. Because if you think by being a good peasant, like the peasants used to be under the aristocracy, oh, the Lord is so good to us, because that's what you're being. You're being a fucking peasant. If you think that's going to save your job, you got another thing coming, man. If you have not built some kind of working class solidarity, and you better build it very quickly, the AI is coming for all of you. It's coming for all of you. They're not going to thank you for bowing your head like a peasant and saying, oh, please don't come for my job. They're going to come for your fucking job too. And if you haven't built any working class solidarity, if what you did at this moment was to attack workers for asking for a wage that these companies could very well afford to pay, you deserve what you get later on. So instead of attacking workers, why don't you attack companies like Pizza Hut that laid off 1,100 drivers? Why don't you boycott Pizza Hut, which is what we proposed on the Jimmy Dore show? Boycott, because they will fire you if they can. If they can. It is up to you to make them feel they can't without losing more money than they're gaining by firing people. And if you don't support those workers right now when this is happening, it's going to be your job. It's going to be your job. And you're going to be saying, oh, no, but I didn't ask for more than $12. They're not going to give a shit. If they can save the money they're paying you, they're coming for you too.
Of course. Of course. I like this comment. Scumbag douchebag is, I think, Foghorn Leghorn's cousin. Scumbag douchebag here. Americans face price surge in food from groceries to McDonald's. So this is a piece that came out. This is a piece about nationwide food prices, especially grocery and fast food prices. So this has nothing to do with minimum wage increase in one state. Americans are shocked by how expensive their groceries and restaurant bills are. McDonald's prices have doubled, and Olive Garden is now too expensive for many. A new report from the Wall Street Journal shows that $100 at the grocery store just does not go as far as it did 5 years ago. Today, the same grocery list costs 36.5% more. Everybody knows this, right? Everybody who buys groceries, even if you go eat fast food, it's absolutely insane. Food prices, like any sort of basic necessity, are going to disproportionately affect more consumers because they have fewer dollars to spend, Vice President of General Economics at the Cato Institute, Scott Luchicome, explained. There is a silver lining. Bacon and tilapia, oh, that's a good, the most disgusting food you could eat, tilapia, are less expensive, and assorted bagels are 49% less in 2022, per the Journal. That is true. Bagels have not gone up. You can still get a bagel with butter for $2 in my neck of the woods. However, items like beef, fruit snacks, and mayonnaise are more than 50% more expensive than back in 2019, and consumers are feeling the pinch when eating out. There's a time when a trip to the Olive Garden was affordable. On their latest earnings call, the restaurant's parent company reported much lower sales among Americans who make below $75,000 a year. When it comes to the grocery store, when it comes to going out to eat, if you see a 20-30% increase in those prices and you're on the lower end of the income scale, while you're going to scale back or not go at all, Lincecome said. As the Daily Mail points out, McDonald's prices have doubled in 10 years. Back in 2014, you could get a McDouble for just $1.19, and today you will pay $3.19. A 10-piece McNuggets meal was just $5.99, and today you're going to have to pay $10.99. $10.99 for a 10-piece Nuggets meal. That's what it is. My area of the woods, yes, $6 not too long ago. If the shake machine is working, you'll pay $4.49 for an Oreo McFlurry. A decade ago, it was just $2.39. So, well, look, I'm sure we are not the only two to notice. If you go through a drive-through window, it's insane. It's insane. Mm-hmm. Fast food is more expensive than the diner food, more expensive than Chinese takeout now. It's incredible. They're not hurting financially. They're raking it in. They're raking it in, even in the 49 other states which have not recently increased their minimum wage.
This is all I have to say. Look, I get really angry about this, probably because I grew up in a working class neighborhood where I saw a lot of people get brainwashed this way. And it's a combination of things. That's why I always recommend Thomas Frank's What's the Matter with Kansas in combination with Listen Liberal, because that's the full picture. There's an element of the way Republicans tied culture war issues to an elite economics and convinced people that those things went together. And there's the way that the liberal class abandoned the working class via the Democratic Party and sent out every signal they could that not only didn't they want those people, but they had absolute cultural contempt for those people. The combination of these things is why you have so many people who, think they got a fucking economics degree on the back of a fucking envelope at the University of Bob every time you bring this up. You don't understand economics. No, motherfucker, you don't understand fucking economics. You don't understand economics. Look at the profits these companies make. Look at the profits these companies make. It is not that they don't. Do you understand? It's not that they're on these very tight margins of profit, and if you shake anything in the tree, they go bankrupt. That's what they're telling you. That's what they're telling you. And I do not understand why you have so many people who are skeptical of every media narrative, whether it be the jab, which is very safe and effective, as we know, whether it be the military-industrial complex, whether it be media itself. They're skeptical of every media narrative. This is the one thing where you have a lot of people who are skeptical of all those narratives who think the media told them the truth. So, there's a saying, if you want to see who has power, look at who you're not allowed to question. So I would modify that a little bit. If you want to see what they really care about, look what they made sure to brainwash you into. Look what they made sure the one thing you wouldn't question would be wages and the right to go after these corporations for more of them. They trained you to hate your own class. They trained you to hate yourself. They trained you to hate your fellow worker. And you heard of decolonizing your mind? You got to de-peasantize your mind. You got to get that peasant mentality that you've been trained into out of you, because raise wages, not raise wages. Look what happened in the supermarkets, man. The supermarket workers didn't demand higher wages. Did that stop them? Until you get together and overthrow this system, they're going to come for you, and things are going to get harder and harder for you. They're going to extract as much wealth from the working class as they think they can get. And when AI comes, that's going to be all the rest of it.
Right. Indeed. Boogie, thanks for the $20 over on Rumble. I haven't donated yet, so I need to correct that. Thanks for the show. Thank you, Boogie. That's a very generous donation. Russell, you're coming through fine for me.
Now it seems to have stopped. It was starting to do that thing, and now it's stopped again. So hopefully it stays all right.
Do it live. If you need to go and hook up in Steph's office, I guess just let me know. And
he showed me that there's an Ethernet in here.
Oh, okay.
So if it keeps doing that, I'll try that.
There you go. Warren, thanks for the $22. Keaton, are you using the Shure tripod or a different mic stand? I think this is a different mic stand. I actually didn't buy this microphone. My brother gave it to me about a year and a half ago, and this was a mic stand he had. So I think this is a third-party mic stand. So it's not the name brand tripod there, Warren. I would set the mic so I don't have to speak that close, but now that the weather's warm, my downstairs neighbor blasts music on Sunday nights when it's nice out, and so between that and my kids yelling, it's probably just easier for me to keep it as is until I can really soundproof this place. But thank you, Warren. Hobbs45, thanks for the $11 super chat. Some Chinese restaurants have stopped providing fortune cookies. Confucius, you will enjoy no cookie, you will claim no fortune. Lucky number's not applicable. I like that. Thanks for the $11. Mad as Hell Munchie says, my 8-year-old and I are now Iron Maiden fans, courtesy of this fine show. Oh, there you go. Nice.
Is that true? Wow, nice. We converted an 8-year-old? That's crazy.
Wow, yeah, that's cool. Zach Boyles, yeah, what is an 8-year-old doing watching this show? This is not appropriate. I just got off and finished work. Stars align with sun. Thank you, Zach. Appreciate that. What happened here? I got that. Okay, cool. Let's see. Eric Husso, crazy that Ecuador stormtroopers assaulted the Mexican embassy. Imperialism in action. Embassy is no longer invaluable.
I saw something about that.
Yeah, we're doing that on Jimmy tomorrow? We probably should.
Maybe. I'm still deciding the lineup.
All right. The DD Science Desk hard at work. Yes, thank you, Dodger 12. Yes, the Science Desk. What is a lunar eclipse? Let's go to our correspondent. What's the order of that?
On the ground correspondent in Ohio.
Yes.
No, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania, yes. Right? Biden has a permanent total eclipse of the brain, says Kenman. Thank you, Kenman. Appreciate that. Solar eclipse is when the sun passes between the Earth and the moon. No, that is not right. That is definitely not correct. No, the sun can't pass between the Earth and the moon. I don't know if that's a joke, but that I know is not possible.
That we know that much. We're humanities people, but we know that much.
Exactly. That's funny though. Here we go. I would gladly, says D. Wortham, thanks for the $5, exchange my chance to see the total solar eclipse for a total permanent eclipse of Biden and his gang. His Highness. Oh, so you are there. Okay. I just traveled 6 hours from home to see this eclipse and listen to the Double D podcast while doing it. Learn about eclipses or I'll go listen to the Vanguard. I'm just bluffing. Yeah, there you go.
You think they know about eclipses? Good luck with that.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny. I love that was a funny Trump memory. Remember when he looked up at it with squinty eyes? Everybody was saying how you shouldn't look at the eclipse, and there's that great picture of him going like this.
That's the one I made the homemade glasses for.
He's such a fun guy. Really is. All right, let's move on to segment number 2. Russell, go ahead.
All right, so I've been waiting on doing a Disney story until after the proxy vote. The initiated will know what I'm talking about. So 2023, Disney had a pretty hellish year. You see here Disney's disastrous year of box office flops. It's estimated Disney lost about $1 billion at the box office off things like Quantumania, the Marvels, and so on. Their amusement park, which is really their cash cow, has started to lose customers. They had the lightest summer they've had in a very long time. Supposedly even 4th of July weekend was not very busy. And for Disney, streaming losses and TV's decline are a 1-2 punch. So they've been hemorrhaging subscribers on Disney Plus, and at the same time, their linear TV has been dropping. So into the void stepped one Nelson Peltz. Nelson Peltz is the head of the Trian Investor Group. Last year, I think it was in January, he threatened to make a bid for board seats. He's not trying to fire Iger, according to him, but he's trying to get seats on the board to try to have a voice in the direction Disney goes in. So he kind of backed off. Disney made a lot of promises, a lot of them oriented around we're going to go away from the being political and we're going to go back to being entertaining. And as Peltz himself has pointed out, from the time they made that promise until Peltz decided to make another bid for the board, Disney stock dropped from $120 to about $80. It was $120 at that time. So this is from an interview Peltz did. Disney said that Peltz has not presented a single strategic idea to the company during 2 years of campaigning for board seats. When I bring this up, Peltz launches into a critique of Disney's movie business, which even Iger admits had a bumpy 2023. Quote, "They say we know nothing about the movie business. We don't claim we do, but I don't think they do with 5 big losers in a row. They've lost first place in animation. They've lost first place in features. Maybe it's time to change management in those divisions. Is it time for Kevin Feige to go, I ask?" Referring to the president of Marvel Studios who oversaw the highest grossing film series of all time before the recent rough patch. Quote, "I'm not ready to say that, but I question his record." Iger acknowledged last year that his company had focused too much on movie messaging and not enough on quality storytelling. Peltz agrees that Disney has become too woke. People go to watch a movie or a show to be entertained, he says. They don't go to get a message. I would dispute that. I think it depends on how you present it. Returning to woke Disney, he takes aim at the Marvels and Black Panther, which portrayed female and black superheroes respectively. Now, this was the money quote that got a lot of press. "Why do I have to have a Marvel that's all women? Not that I have anything against women. Not that there's anything wrong with that. But why do I have to do that? Why can't I have Marvels that are both? Why do I need an all-black cast?" Okay, now, we're not really going to focus on this dimension for this, but I feel like you can't just let that pass and not address it. I personally don't think the problem is having an all-female cast, or he's kind of making Iger's argument for him by invoking the Black Panther, which made over $1 billion. as an example of why that formula doesn't work. Black Panther was good. I don't think it's really about woke. I think it's about having creatives who are not talented using identity casting and diversity casting to hide their lack of talent and to deflect criticism of the poor quality of their movies. And I will demonstrate that right now. You really couldn't get more woke than Into the Spider-Verse. And Into the Spider-Verse was much beloved. There's a third movie coming out. In my opinion, that's one of the greatest animated films I've ever seen in terms of its creativity. How much more woke can you get? Can you see in the background? You have a pregnant black female Spider-Woman there on a motorcycle. I mean, you really couldn't push it any further than that. And everybody loved it because it was great. So Peltz is wrong, I think. I think he's wrong about the reason for the box office drop. It's really that they hired a bunch of talentless people who are hiding behind diversity. It's not the diversity. And one other point I will make about what was brilliant about how they handled Into the Spider-Verse. You see up there in the background? There's Peter Parker. They didn't get rid of Peter Parker. They didn't erase Peter Parker from existence. They didn't gender swap Peter Parker. Peter Parker is still a character in that universe. They just expanded out who's playing in that universe. Now, I think with a lot of the hardcore fans, all hardcore fans have a little Kathy Bates in them. Right?
You did it! You murdered my misery!
So you get rid of Peter Parker. Throw Peter Parker in there, man. They're fine.
Who's the little piglet Spider-Man there?
You never saw these movies?
You're asking, is that a serious question? Of course I've never seen these movies.
You might have.
Who's the piglet Spider-Man?
You have kids.
Yeah, they're not into this yet. They're into the Spidey cartoon. They like the kid Spider-Man.
Yeah, they're pretty little for this. This would be a little complicated for them. All right, so quickly, the Into the Spider-Verse idea, and this is why I call it so creative and inventive and entertaining. All right, so it's a multiverse concept where you have a Spider-Man in all these different multiverses. But you have multiverses that are completely fanciful. Like they have in this movie they just did. They had a Da Vinci multiverse where everything looked like a Da Vinci drawing. Like they're not trying to be reality based. They're having a lot of fun with it. So there's one
who's
universe
the little pig man?
who's Spider Pig is the Spider-Man.
Okay, so he is a pig. So he is a piglet Spider-Man.
So yeah, so like it's more like a Looney Tunes universe where Spider Pig is the Spider-Man in that universe. There's like a different one, and so Miles Morales is the Spider-Man in this universe. Peter Parker is actually from a different universe.
Right.
So that's it, man. So they solved it. Everybody's happy. And, on the other side, anybody who attacks the critics of these movies, they're racist, misogynist. If that were really where it's coming from, they'd attack this movie. And everybody loved this movie. So my suggestion.
I like that little pig. He's cute. Maybe my kids will like it.
I mean, the idea is a little complicated for kids that age, but maybe. I mean, I thought both the movies were great. They were great. The second one was really brilliant. Like the imagination in the way they portrayed these different universes. It was smart and entertaining at the same time. So what I would say, this was developed under Sony. That's why it doesn't suck. What Disney should do is fire fucking everybody responsible for the last several years of Marvel films and TV shows and hire the people responsible for Into the Spider-Verse. You want to keep the diversity, but do it in a way that's actually good. Hire these people. Clearly, they know how to do that. So, this
I
just
need a hat
dropped.
with that little pig on it.
Yeah,
a baseball cap.
I mean, that's kind of like a reference. They did a comic book of the Spider Pig at some point, so it's referencing that. So this just dropped that Indiana Jones lost even more money than originally thought at the box office, and I suspect, because 130 million sounds low when you account for marketing budget, which they usually don't, I believe that's just a loss on its production budget. So between that and the way these Star Wars movies have tanked, and these Star Wars TV shows, man, look at George Lucas. He must be spitting fire.
So
all those Star Wars films.
All the Star Wars films.
They were your kids.
Yeah, well, they are. I loved them. I created them. I'm very intimately involved in them, and obviously to
and
sell
you
them
sold
off.
them.
I sold them to the white slavers that take these things and
okay, but I mean.
All right, so there's George describing Disney as white slavers. I don't have to tell you how much they destroyed everyone's beloved memories of Indiana Jones with this last film. I mean, South Park already did something about Indiana Jones being raped in the fourth movie. The fifth movie, I think, was just too sad for them to even comment on. So George must have really gotten on board with trying to challenge Iger, right? Oh, no. George, for incomprehensible reasons that no one could figure out, this guy who very famously fought the studio system as a young man, like Star Wars, if you go back and you watch the original, you realize it's like an indie film. It's like a scrappy indie movie originally. Creating magic is not for amateurs. Again, it's such a strange thing for George Lucas to say. When I sold Lucasfilm just over a decade ago, I was delighted to become a Disney shareholder because of my longtime admiration for its iconic brand and Bob Iger's leadership. So now, given that he's the largest single shareholder because he partly sold the Lucasfilm franchise for stock, this holds a lot of weight that he backed Iger in this fight. Of course, Elon, who's not actually a shareholder but has been very vocal about Disney, you might remember him telling Bob Iger to go fuck himself live on stage, put out a little April Fool's joke on April 1st, excited to join Disney as their chief DEI officer. Can't wait to work with Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy to make their content more woke. Even the Linguini, South Park fans will get that reference.
Put a ticket in, make her gay.
And he followed up with, when the votes were ongoing, while I don't own any Disney stocks today, I would definitely buy their shares if Nelson were elected to the board. His track record is excellent. And then somebody who's going to come up in a very different context later on in the show, Bill Ackman weighed in. Now, believe it or not, Bill Ackman actually had a point here. So you know how the media will leak election results to favor a candidate? Well, Disney did that. Disney spent $40 million lobbying shareholders. Nelson Peltz spent $25 million lobbying shareholders. But Disney leaked how the voting was going, which is illegal. So Bill Ackman put out a statement about this and pointing out it's illegal and the SEC should investigate. And he said, which is kind of interesting, the reason why the progress of an election for directors must be kept confidential until the results are final is that leaking the results can affect the ultimate outcome. Institutional shareholders worry about offending management by voting with an activist. They are concerned that if management learns that they have voted against the incumbent directors, they may lose access to management going forward. In other words, Bob Iger is less likely to come visit and or take a call with a shareholder if the shareholder voted with the dissident. So they played a little dirty here. Surprise. So Iger won, and very promptly the Disney stock collapsed because why wouldn't it? Now, very interesting to me is that 75% of retail investors, people like me and you, they backed Iger. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like, if you know these Disney fanatics, I don't think I've ever had anyone come at me as hard about politics as some of the Disney people will have come at me over the years for saying these kinds of things. So I guess that's most of their shareholders are those kinds of people. I guess it makes sense. Like, if you don't like what they're doing, you're not going to be a Disney shareholder, right? So Tryon put forward nominees for 2 Disney board seats, Peltz and Jay Rasulo, a former Disney CFO and head of its theme parks division, who left the company in 2015. Instead, all 12 of Disney's current board members were reelected according to the preliminary results, and now those results are finalized. A handful of other proposals put forward by shareholders all failed to pass. They included measures to require greater disclosures around Disney's political donations and charitable contributions. Honorable mention, I guess Chloe Cole owns some Disney stock, and she called in asking them to fund detransition surgery as their healthcare plan funds transition surgery. Trolled him a bit with that. And both Disney and Tryon embarked on publicity campaigns to convince shareholders to support their director slates. Activist investor Blackwell's Capital had also nominated 3 board candidates, all of which failed. Tryon had support from former Marvel Entertainment chairman Ike Perlmutter, plus the influential shareholder advisory firm Institutional Shareholder Services. Asset manager BlackRock, the shareholder advisory firm Glass Lewis, and individual investors, including George Lucas, descendants of Walt Disney, supported the company's nominees. Also not mentioned there is the widow of Steve Jobs, backed Iger. I can't remember her name. And Jamie Dimon of Chase also backed Iger. So all the worst people pretty much backed Iger. So you can see what happened with the stock price there. You can tell exactly when the vote took place, and the stock just craters right there between Wednesday and Thursday. It hit about the mid 116s. It had been coasting about 122 for a while. Recovered a little bit on Friday, but I would suspect it's going to go back down to its lows. So hey, man. On the bright side, Disney's not going to be so political going forward. They're not going to do these things that turn off fans, right? Oh, no, I guess they're going to keep going in the same direction. And in keeping with what I was saying before, it's not that you can't make that work, but I think we know from history the way to bet is that it's going to be done in such an obnoxious way that it just continues to turn off fans. So sell your Disney stock, which is not to be taken as financial advice. That's just my personal opinion. Keaton?
There you go. Well, this is my shit right here. This is what I'm.
All right, so basically, you want to do an elevator pitch for a dedicated Spider Pig movie.
Yeah, look at that. Yeah, absolutely. Spider Pig should have his own movie.
Spider Ham.
Look at that. That's my jam. I'm going to wear that on a future show. Only $15.93. That's not bad either. That's a pretty good price. What website is that off? Artist Shot. There you go. All right. I'll shop around a little bit. But yeah, what do you think, folks, in the chat? Let us know. Spider Pig hat. It's cute. That guy's funny. I like that Spider Pig.
Who knew? Who knew? When I was putting this segment together, it never occurred to me that Keaton would hone in on the Spider Pig.
I also thought of a really, really good joke during that segment, but I can't say it. I don't feel like I should say it, especially not on you. Although it's probably YouTube safe, but it's too mean. Hey, maybe we'll tell that joke over on Rumble because we're going to be doing a Rumble Q&A later.
Tell it on Rumble.
There you go. Our Rumble Q&A is tonight, by the way, folks. So you can go to dudissidents.com/Rumble and join us after the show for our question and answer period. It is Sunday night, which means we have our post-show Q&A over on Rumble. That's dudissidents.com/Rumble. We have 1,613 of you over there already. 2336 between YouTube and Twitter. Love to see that. Hit that like button, hit that follow button, and join us after the show over on Rumble for the Q&A. Patrons, paid Substackers, and paid Locals members will have call-in access, but everybody is free to watch and chat their questions in. We got a couple of plugs that we want to make. Tickets are moving for the live shows. So dudissidents.com/day show. That will get you tickets to our matinee, 2 p.m. matinee in New York City at the Producers Club on June 9th. dudissidents.com/night show is where you go to get tickets for the 7 p.m. evening show. Those are going to be different shows. So if you want to do a doubleheader and go to both, where will be different material at each one, there are the links right there. We've got a little over 20 tickets left, I think, for the night show and about 30 left for the day show. So tickets are more than half gone. There's about 50 tickets left in total. So don't wait. If you want to get a seat, secure a seat now because these are small venues. There's really no room to fudge it with standing room. Like I said, there's barely sitting room in these venues, much less standing room. So make sure you go dudissidents.com /day show for the day show, /night show for the night show. Now, if you live far away from New York and you can't make it there, but you want to watch live anyway, you can do so by becoming a Patreon member, patreon.com/do dissidents. You get your name up in lights on the scroll. As a bonus perk of doing that, you also get call-in access to our weekly question and answers, which are every Sunday night after the main show. And you get 2 bonus shows per month, those 2 bonus interactive patron exclusive live streams. So you can go to patreon.com/do dissidents and sign up. You can also join our Substack as a paid member. You get the exact same perks there. And you could also join our locals. If you're watching on Rumble right now, which we got about 1,600 of you in there, you can hit that bright red join button under the video player, and that takes you to our locals community. Starting at just $5 a month, you get all those perks I mentioned. Shout out on the show credits, call-in access to the Q&As, bonus streams, and live access to our live shows. So if you can't make it to New York, you can watch both of our live theater shows as they happen by joining our locals, our Patreon, or our Substack as paid members. Paid members are the backbone of the show. We thank you very much, as always, for your support. Let's get to some super chats as the scroll finishes up there. Sam, recent rising, Bree said we should read an N. Hannah Jones article, as is brought to you by Shell 1619. Am I just way to Briahna Joy Gray's left, or is she pivoting lib? Well, we're going to talk about...
She was always a lib.
Yeah, she's got... well, this whole Twitter Files thing is big-time lib stuff. Cool Blue 71, thank you for the $4.99. McDonald's Filet-O-Fish and apple pie are the same thing, according to an old Late Night with David Letterman top 10 list on McDonald's secrets. That's funny. It's a good joke. Andres Torres, come on, boys, get excited about the stars. They're telling us that Kamala will become president this month. Let's go. Oh, was that a reason to be excited? For sure. Angry Russ sounds like Gilbert Gottfried on speed.
It would be...
Yeah, Russ was cooking.
That's what those arguments sound like to me, man. That's what I picture. I picture these very fucking frustrated people who have like the top button buttoned on their collar shirt.
Oh, yeah? Kind of like not being skeptical about China and North Korea. Oh, you're talking about media narratives. Thank you, Sam.
Who said I'm not skeptical?
He is skeptical. The fast food segment is one of the best you have ever done. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Hey,
man.
go check out
you.
the Jimmy Dore segments we did on that too, because we did a couple over there. But we just, we had to, because, look.
Well, I think that's what he's talking about, actually.
Oh, well,
like
I think
based on when he dropped it.
Oh, when did he drop that? 7:37? No, it was about 20 minutes ago.
All right.
Thank you, though. Appreciate that.
The Jimmy Dore one, because I had the exhibits together for that.
Yes. Free the plant, free the people, free Palestine. Thank you. Cannabis saves the world. There you go. Tom, thanks for the $5. I have a Chinese restaurant out here in Queens that charges extra to add eggs to the fried rice. Wow, that's
in
crazy.
Queens?
Hey, Tom, do you have your tickets to the live show yet? You live out there in Queens. You should be there June 9th. Make sure you grab those. Anybody who mentions they're from New York is going to get hassled now if they have not bought a ticket to the live show. But that's amazing.
Whenever I'm in New York, when I get together with Negi, we always go to a movie and Chinese in Queens, because that's the last place I know where you can get that old school Chinese with the white tablecloths and the sticky spare ribs. That's a dying art.
There's a place in the Bronx we used to go to with my grandparents called Hawaii Sea. It's a sit-down place like that. Yeah, but that was a while back.
Sounds like it.
Abiding. Thanks for the $2. My girl, Briahna Joy Gray, kept doubling down in Taibbi interview. Was painful to watch, beyond depressing. Extra $1 for Russell calling it. Wow, high roller tonight, Abiding. Thank you for that. That's big of you. Thank you very much. Joy, but a fuckface. Russ, no need to say you went to a gay musical. That is redundant. Just say you went to a musical.
You say that, man. I was actually, my friend, the reason I was at it was my friend Cooper is producing it. He's on tour with this. It's doing very well. He's touring it next to, I think he's going to Portland with it. I produced Manson the musical, and I ran it for 1.5 years. And my publicist, who was very gay, he came and he saw it. He said, I don't know how you did it, but this may be the only musical I've ever seen that's not even a little gay.
There you go. 666 likes on YouTube. Beautiful. All righty. Let's go to a couple more Rumble rants here. I think we got these here. Let's see. P.W. Walker, how dare those uppity worker vermin steal our beloved share buyback money? Yes, there you go. The worthless heathens. The Bolsheviks are back, I say. We are so persecuted. It's an inhuman travesty. Thank you. Angry Cabbage, thanks for the $1. Russ has made me realize negative reaction to food service wage bump is very much ego damage. I worked my ass off to not be in retailer food. I quit my 10-year career now. I think you have that continued, Angry Cabbage. So we will get to the sequel of that here. I could get paid just as much in the same day of one very job I tried to avoid. I know who I should be mad at, but can't lie. It hit me in the ego. A lot of it is that.
You know what, man? I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's great of you to say. And you know, a lot of it is that. A lot of it is people being like, well, I'm, look, I mean, my wife works in a hospital. She makes a little over 30 an hour. So, some people, I mean, she's not like this. If she were, I would get rid of her. But she's not. But some people like that are like,
get rid of her.
Yeah, well, not like that. Like this, get rid of her. Yeah. Not this, get rid of her. But no, some people are like, well, I make $32 an hour saving lives, and so why should they make 20? Listen, you're arguing over Trump change. While these people with real money steal everything and can control everything. Yeah, exactly.
You just we Keaton covered it here. I covered it on a Jimmy show, right? Did you? Oh no, you didn't cover that story. You covered that the wealthy hit
$44 trillion net worth.
44 trillion. I covered that all of the billionaires in the world under 30 inherited it.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, man. You're gonna get mad about fast food workers. And you ain't got shit to say about that. I don't want to hear it, man. I don't want to hear it.
That's right. Zach, thanks for the $1.99. You should interview Alan at Film Threat about D-Files. Interesting.
You know, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I'd like to, but I'm not familiar with Alan. I know Chris Gore over there. I was thinking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's Film Threat. Yeah. Spider Ham, Spider Pig is from The Simpsons. Yeah, I remember the Spider Pig song. Yes, thank you for that. All righty, we got plenty more Rumble rants and Super Chats. Thank you all for your generosity. We will get to everything in due time, but we are going to move on now to segment number 3. So, folks, we covered a lot in our last show. Our last show was really half devoted to the media's change of tone when it comes to the Israel-Gaza war. And now all of a sudden, Morning Joe has turned on Israel. Morning Joe is, grilling Israeli spokespeople about Netanyahu and the suitcases and the Qatar, and they're saying we should condition aid. This is ridiculous. It's out of control. So now it is no longer acceptable to back Israel unconditionally. And so now everybody is in damage control mode, including the aforementioned on this stream, Bill Ackman. So Bill Ackman puts this out. The fucking balls on these people is unbelievable. He puts out a 5-point plan for the rebuilding and reconstruction of Gaza. He wants to rebuild Gaza. Hey, God, we love Gaza. Genocide? What genocide? Oh, come on, we didn't mean anything. We just leveled the whole place and killed a few, 10, 20, 30,000 of you over and over and over again. We smeared anyone who criticized that as anti-Semitic. This guy literally had college kids canceled for speaking out against this. And now here's my 5-point plan. Here he tweets out a few high-level thoughts on a potential solution in Gaza. Step 1, give Gazan residents something to look forward to. Without hope, there is only despair, anger, and violence. Hope comes from Israel's and the United States' commitment that once Hamas is destroyed, Israel and the U.S. will support the creation of new Gaza, subject to security commitments from the U.S. and Gulf states. New Gaza is completely rebuilt. I feel like this should be like a commercial. We should do like an AI commercial. It's like an SNL parody video. New Gaza is completely rebuilt with modern infrastructure.
He's talking about like they cleared weeds to build a subdivision.
Yeah, well, he's talking about like this is a new housing development. You're presenting it to shareholders.
It's so sick and it's so completely out of touch. Like they just don't understand how much they've lost control of this narrative.
Exactly. That he didn't know how repulsive this would come off. New Gaza is completely rebuilt with modern infrastructure, sustainable energy, and clean water. What do you know? And world-class architecture, technology, healthcare, education, favorable taxation. Oh, what, Bill Ackman? Are you going to fucking move there? Favorable taxation. Favorable taxation. Yes. Ron DeSantis will be the elected governor of New Gaza. People are leaving New York for New Gaza by the droves. You can't retire in New York anymore. You have to come to New Gaza if you want a comfortable retirement. Property taxes here are fantastic. Thoughtfully
Masks
designed.
optional.
Yeah, right. Yeah, masks. No mask mandates in New Gaza. Exactly. Thoughtfully designed business creation incentives and world-class resorts on the Mediterranean. The design of New Gaza.
Basically, he wants to build Hudson Yards in Gaza.
Yes, exactly. Yes, Hudson Yards. For those who don't get that reference, the sort of 30s on the west side of New York City, that was like the last industrial neighborhood of Manhattan. And they very recently got rid of all the taxi cab stands, the horse stables, the mechanic shops, and put up these new fancy luxury apartments. So that's what he's talking about, in a shopping mall and everything. So yes, the design.
It looks, I call it the Borg ship.
Right.
Like, it looks like if you went to the Borg homeworld, that's what their architecture would be like.
Yes, indeed. The design of New Gaza begins immediately with a global competition where master planners, architects, technologists form consortiums to compete for a large financial awards and opportunity to build a new city from a blank sheet of paper. The fact that it's a blank sheet of paper is proof that you and everyone who supports this belong in the fucking Hague, not tweeting out these plans about how you're going to rebuild it as this new business mecca in the Middle East. New Gaza is a model city. Think the Saudi Neom.com, but on the Mediterranean. New Gaza is rebuilt and governed by a consortium of Gulf states and the U.S. Economic and tax incentives are designed to encourage private foreign investment, so private sector investors have a vested long-term interest in Gaza and businesses are incentivized to locate in Gaza. That's step one, folks. That was a long step one. So step one, come up with a big plan for New Gaza. Step two, civilians in Rafah are moved to a refugee camp safe zone built in the Negev desert adjoining Gaza. So clear the people out. Step three, IDF destroys Hamas. Step 4, the reconstruction of Gaza begins. Step 5, civilians return as the city is rebuilt. As always, I welcome your feedback. Well, I gave him some feedback, which we'll get to in a second. If you have nothing constructive to say, please keep it to yourself. Fuck you. Like, how could you say that? How could you say, if you have nothing constructive, like you've been constructive this whole time? Flamethrowing accomplishes nothing. Hey, don't be mad at me. I just canceled a bunch of college kids who spoke out against the genocide. Flamethrowing accomplishes nothing. If you think this is a bad approach, please share your better ideas. So now you have some of these Israelis who are trying to, like I said, curry favor with society after advocating for the mass murder of men, women, and kids. Education has to be at the top of that list. Oh, here's the shitlib Israeli. If third parties build a paradise, but a majority of the population is still obsessed with destroying Israel rather than building Gaza, we're back to square one. We've already seen that a population educated to glorify violence will self-destruct to attain their goals. She agrees. Yeah. I love your plan, but I would add a full investment in education. It could be basic skills for children 3 to 14 and technical skills for anyone from the age of 14. It could be a trade or any skills linked to the reconstruction. So we're going to educate the kids how to rebuild the cities that we destroyed. Right? I mean, the gall is just so incredible.
It's so fucking sick, and it is such a colonial mentality. You ever see the Green Berets with John Wayne, and the way they portray the good Vietnamese is very typical of how they would represent colonized people. The children are kind of irascible and adorable and do cute things. And the people have their strange primitive ways, and you have to come and show them how to do everything, but they're so grateful. That's what this vision is. It's this classic Western vision of the inferior peoples of the earth gratefully taking the superior knowledge of the West and thanking them for it.
Yeah. History has shown that coming out of authoritarian regime is not easy for the population. Education plays a big role in the hope for a better future. Well, now he gets some not so positive feedback. I'm sorry, Bill, but I genuinely think you are living in a fairy tale world right now, says Mel. This is something I've observed from supporters of Israel from the very beginning. You all seem totally incapable of understanding how the actions of Israel since 10/7 have forever changed regular people's opinions of Israel and Israelis. No one trusts Israel to do the right thing anymore. Things are never going back to the way they were. A little reality check there from Mel. Here's Paul Bigar. Bill, you'll eventually get to this was a genocide perpetrated by Israel, and then you'll come to realize that you actively promoted it. I'd recommend getting there sooner rather than later. Absolutely.
He'll never get there.
I gave a little condensed translation for those who didn't want to read that whole thing. What this really translates to is promise Gazans a rebuilt society, force Gazans out while we rebuild Gaza. Rebuild Gaza, step 3. Step 4, make excuse for why Gazans can't come back, i.e. Hamas. And number 5, Israelis claim rebuilt Gaza for themselves. That's what would actually happen if they followed Bill Ackman's model. They'd come up with some reason why we can't allow them back, and it's ours, right? My favorite response, though, I ain't reading all that. Free Palestine. Gen X girl. Shout out to Gen X girl. That was my favorite of all the replies to Bill Ackman. But I mean, it is fucking unbelievable how these people, what, the genocide? We love Gaza. We didn't mean anything. We didn't mean any harm to Gaza. It's just that we've been systematically destroying the society from A to Z for the past 6 months and insisting anybody who had anything to say about it must be an anti-Semite, must be a vicious terrorist sympathizer. But no, look, hey, we're down. We are all pro Gaza. We love Gaza. We're going to rebuild. It's going to be great. It's going to be better than ever. You're going to be glad we did this. That's what the subtext of that is. Hey, it's going to be better than ever because of what we just did.
Hey,
I mean, absolute fucking sickos.
Sometimes you have to commit a genocide to make a capitalist, authoritarian, heavily surveilled hellhole off a beach.
Yeah. That is just incredible. Just an incredible proposal.
I think of Hudson Yards partly because when, I don't know what's up and running now, but the way it was designed, they have the capacity to watch the population by heat signatures within Hudson Yards. And this is for traffic studies.
Interesting.
Okay, so what do you, that's what they did theoretically with people they don't want to kill. Right. What the fuck do you think they would do with this in terms of surveillance? I'm not even kidding. There would be a fucking camera every 5 feet, right? Yeah. It would just, every place there would have a camera. It would just be constant surveillance. It would be this capitalist authoritarian version of Orwell.
Right.
That's if they let them come back. That's what they'd be living in.
Yes, exactly. P.W. Walker, the PMC, are today's Judenrat. What does that say? What is that? Do you know what that word means? I don't even. I've never heard of that.
No.
All right. That they'll end up in the boxcars no matter how loyal they were to their jail. Okay.
I see. Right. I got it.
Now I get it.
So that's the Jews that collaborated.
Okay. Now I get it. Yeah.
I never heard that.
Yeah. See, we both caught on at the same time, but I never heard that word.
Yes.
Winnetou Livre, thanks for the $5. 2 things. A, I hate to nitpick, but that was actually a Richard Pryor bit, not Eddie Murphy.
I was wondering that. I was thinking, hang on, man, am I mixing them up? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. You're right. I was wondering, hang on, was that Richard Pryor?
Hey, Winnetou Livre, are you coming to the live show? You live in Connecticut, right? See, I know where all you guys live now.
I thought he lives
now
in
I'm gonna
Canada.
ask you.
He's not
I'm pretty sure Winnetou Livre is in Connecticut. Best of luck to you and Jose and all the due dissidencers in the Bronx. Thank you, Winnetou Livre. Appreciate you. Okay. All right. Here we go. Angry Cabbage. I lied. Part 3. What I mean is I realize the knee-jerk reaction I have is honest to God. Well, fuck. Now my job I worked so hard for is going to be even less respected by others, which is silly. Well, thank you. That's very big of you to,
it is.
Say
it really
that.
is, man. It really is.
Thank you.
It's what I think it was Nathan Hale who said, if we don't all hang together, we'll hang separately.
Yes.
That is the working class right now. They're not going to spare anybody once the AI allows them to get rid of most workers. If you haven't already built working class solidarity by then, it's going to be too late.
Yep, I agree. Fudge 786-131. Thanks for the $20. It's very generous. To Jake for explaining space without being an asshole like Neil deGrasse Tyson. Thank you, Fudge. Appreciate that very much. You guys are funny. Alrighty, let's take a couple super chats here. Vroom Rutabaga, picking your space brain. Do you think it's a coincidence that we had an earthquake 2 days before a solar eclipse, or do you think they're connected? Well, I would have to say it's a coincidence. But if there's any competing theory out there, that is certainly
human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together, mass hysteria.
I'm a published author. My map is my thumbnail. I would never let those shit-libs touch my work, not for any money, says Amadeus. Thanks, Amadeus. Miller and Lord, the directors of Spider-Verse, worked on Disney's Han Solo movie and were let go for Ron Howard. I'd say the good things about Solo were they're doing. Interesting.
I didn't
know Ron Howard directed that. Let's see here. Okay. Back from the road. Almost every proxy vote I have seen this year has a section about disclosing political donations. All are not recommended by the board. Activist shareholders, got to be a story there somewhere. Thank you, Back from the road. Thanks for helping me keep my Sunday scaries at bay, says AOB. Thank you, AOB. Appreciate that very much. You guys are very generous tonight with all these super chats and Rumble rants. We appreciate that very much. $1 Million Trooper, how about a few seconds of Judas Priest? You've got another thing coming. Whenever Russ lets the peasants know they've got another thing coming. There you go. That's not a bad idea. Check out Leo. My 5-year-old grandson loves it. It's amazingly interesting. Interesting. Thank you. They're always looking for new stuff. It's funny. I shaved my kids were at my in-laws today while I got some work done, including shaving. So when I went and picked my guys up, Sawyer tells me, he says, you got rid of your beard and mustache. I said, yeah, I did. He says, you look like a girl. You look like a girl.
You shouldn't say things like that in public, man. They might come take your kids away for child abuse.
Why?
You're not teaching them to think about gender the right way. Some girls have beards.
That's true. That's true. It's very gender normative there, that he's saying. Also, the Sony made Spider-Verse. Most of their live-action Spider movies are trash, so it definitely seems like bad creators are the reason for the shit products. The People Infinite. Thank you for that $5. All right, we got one more.
It's not rocket science, man. People with proven talent, hire them.
Right.
What's so hard? When you look at some of the people who get hired, it's amazing. Like Benioff and Weiss, actually. Everyone thought they were great because Game of Thrones was great until they ran out of books. And then they looked back and said, oh, these are the guys who made that fucking awful Wolverine Origins movie. Like you look at that, and it's especially if you've been in that industry, it's such a hyper competitive industry. And you say, how the fuck did they land that gig? Everything they ever worked on was terrible. Like, why did a studio decide to invest in them? And you'll see that all over the place, where you look at the backgrounds of showrunners and everything they did sucked, or people who get handed these movies, everything they did sucked. It's very strange, man. It's very strange because everyone's trying to claw ahead and get ahead in this industry. I mean, it's not like there's no people with talent. Like, why don't you just hire them?
Yeah, that's interesting. Sorry, I got a few more super chats I want to get to here. Loved your trilogy segments on Israel last show. Thank you. Really appreciate the coverage throughout. Thank you, Benjamin. Appreciate that very much. Alan, how do you say this? Is it new NG? How do you say that? We've been.
Don't you say it?
Ing? Alan Ing is one writing and doing research for the D Files. He's good. Thank you, KD7. Soccer Papa. By sending Palestinians into the Negev, Bill is inadvertently bringing them back into pre-48 Palestine. Yeah, they're not going to let them back if that's the plan. I don't.
No. Well, I almost did a story, but it got superseded with Biden's conversation with Netanyahu. But before that, there was a story about them having a conference with an Israeli minister where the minister started screaming at them because he proposed putting them in tents in the north of Gaza so that they could go in. And the Biden administration was like, Are you able to source all those tents? Where are you getting them from? How are you bringing food and water? And apparently the guy started literally screaming at Joe Biden.
Wow. Zach Boyles, Alan's the series author and basically Chris's Keaton. Thanks, Zach Boyles. Oh, let's get this. Let's get our Landrew sound drop ready. Landrew, drop another C note on us. Thank you, Landrew. Appreciate that very much.
Landrew is dead.
Apparently not. He just gave us $100.
Just $100. Sharp or dull guillotines. Sharp. We are not pro torture. We're not pro torture. But I gotta say, Landrew. Sorry. Apparently YouTube is for sale. I've heard that they've actually censored. Well, what I mean by that is I've heard some people say that they censored the word guillotine out of their chats, but I guess for $100 I'll let you say it. So there you go. I guess they figure money is money. But we're a nonviolent podcast, of course. We have to say that in order to accept this $100. But thank you so much for that. It is extremely
If you want to see a different kind of reaction to Bill Ackman, you can join my Twitter, Russell Dobular. I had a different take on it.
Exactly. Yes, indeed. All right, let's go to the big marquee segment of the night, shall we? We're an hour 25 in, and this is a huge one. So we're going to go to Matt Taibbi versus Briahna Joy Gray. Yeah, of course. I mean, this is going to take some time, folks. So Matt Taibbi and Briahna Joy Gray had a little dust-up, little scuffle, little throwdown on the Rising show. It all started when a tweet from someone I had never heard of, April Harding, put out a summary of Matt Taibbi's answer to a question: why doesn't he pay much attention to the sins or threats from the right? He gave a great answer. This is according to who? Now, who he gave the answer to, what the forum was. I was a little skeptical.
I was under the impression that he put this on notes and she copied it to Twitter because for reasons we're going to get into here, he doesn't use Twitter anymore.
Right. Okay. There you go. So this was from Twitter. From Substack notes that she copied over to Twitter. So why I don't spend a lot of time on the Republicans. One, there is an enormous army of mainstream media reporters already going after them from every angle, with most major news organizations a little more than proxies for the DNC, to the point where stations hire Biden spokespeople as anchors. Two, the Republicans have very little institutional power nationally. It's not their point of view prevailing in schools, on campuses, in newsrooms where over 90% of working reporters vote blue, and specifically in the intelligence and military apparatus, which has openly aligned itself with Democrats. Even if Donald Trump were a threat to democracy, he lacks the institutional pull to do much damage, which can't be said of Democrats. That's his answer. I agree somewhat with that and disagree somewhat with that. I mean, Trump has the court. He'll have a Republican majority. But in terms of the sort of extra political institutions like the FBI, right, and, academia, media, finance, yes, they will be working against him. So the Democrats' ambitions are significantly more dangerous than those of the Republicans, from digital surveillance to censorship to making intel and enforcement agencies central players in domestic governance, all plans being executed globally as well as in our one country. They are thinking on a much bigger and more dangerous scale than Republicans. I lived in third world countries, and the endless criminal indictments of people like Trump and ongoing lawfare efforts to prevent even third-party challengers are classic authoritarian symptoms. The Republicans aren't near this kind of capability. Fourth, last and most important.
Before you get to it, I just want to point out, even though it's a trivial example, he's making an argument about institutional power. Look how that proxy vote just went at Disney. Who was against it? The people who are more anti-woke, perceived as conservative, right-leaning. Elon, right? Bill Ackman. They didn't even come close. When you account for the institutional investors and the retail investors, it was like 95% of the vote. Now it's a relatively trivial example, but that's all through institutional power, like BlackRock, like Vanguard. And don't tell me those people don't have power. Right. They have enormous power over what gets produced in the economy.
Right. Number 4, last and most important, the Democrats are being organized around a more potent but also much dumber, more cult-like ideology. People like Yuval Harari and his transhumanist divinity concepts scare me a lot more than the Republicans, and I was once undercover in an apocalyptic church in Texas. Ask your average Russian or Cuban what over-empowered pseudo-intellectuals are capable of. I have a pretty good record of picking dangerous phenomena ahead of time. I feel confident on this one. And that's before we get to the demographic/class shifts in the parties. Okay, so that prompted backlash from Zed Jelani on Twitter. They got into a little dust-up about this. And that was the subject of a rising video that came out before they brought Matt Taibbi on. But just to give a little background before we get into that even, as we could see, Briahna Joy Gray kind of had a bit of a hard-on for this whole Twitter Files project going back to basically when they first came out. So, Russell, do you want to just briefly explain what these are, and then we'll get to the video?
Yeah, so Briahna has been attacking the Twitter Files pretty much since the day they broke. She had a pretty famous exchange with Taibbi, accusing him essentially, which she does again in this segment, of not looking for malfeasance against the left, of specifically looking for malfeasance against the right, an accusation which, in addition to being insulting and intellectually dishonest, has absolutely no basis in any evidence that she has and really doesn't make any sense in the context of Taibbi's past career. So she had Greenwald on her show, and Greenwald said, the only information that you end up getting is information they decide to give you. That can end up putting me in the position where I'm unwittingly serving as a spokesperson for an agenda that's not mine. And this was in response, according to Briahna, of her asking him if he'd shepherd a Twitter Files release. But then when she tried to use him to bolster her argument, he quickly clarified. To put this in full context, all journalism is based on what sources provide, except if you have full access to government corporate files. This is always the case. What Taibbi et al. Reported was highly newsworthy on its own. Fang, talking about Li Fang, today said he had full access and no limits. When Daniel Ellsberg gave the Pentagon Papers to the New York Times, how did they know he didn't omit things? They didn't. But they knew that what he provided standing alone was newsworthy. Same with Snowden, the Brazil archive, WikiLeaks, or when New York Times, CNN report what CIA tell them to say. For System Update, we interviewed 4, maybe 5 journalists who reported Twitter Files. They all said the same. Nobody from Twitter paid them. There were no restrictions on what they could say or report. Nothing compromised their editorial independence. So he smacked that down right away. But as soon as this came out with Taibbi, which if you know Briahna, she probably didn't like that statement in and of itself, and she decided to open up litigating the Twitter Files again.
Right. So first we're going to go to the segment that they did a little while back, which is about a week ago, would be my guess, where Zed Jelani got into a dust-up with Taibbi on Twitter. We're doing this as the video because Jelani recently deleted a lot of these tweets, and so luckily Robbie was able to read them for us before they disappeared into the Internet Archive. So here is the highlights of the segment that prompted this latest return of Taibbi to the show.
From a reporter at The Intercept, Zed Jelani, from a reporter at The Intercept, criticized Taibbi, writing on X, "You're just rationalizing pandering to the millions of right-wing subscribers." The millions that right-wing subscribers give you. There are millions of people without health care in the American South because of GOP Medicaid blockade, but not as important as libs of TikTok censorship. Notice how Matt keeps saying, I covered this thing in the past. That's exactly what I'm saying. He stopped covering these beats to pander to his new audience that made him a millionaire. He doesn't touch Palestine for the same reason, despite writing about it previously. The fact he has an overwhelmingly right-wing readership means it's even more valuable for him to cover something besides right-wing beats, but he's going the easy route, the one that makes him money, unquote.
To this, Matt responded, quote, Zed, WTF is wrong with you? You really think there aren't enough people covering Republicans and suggesting I work for the RNC? I don't remember this kind of SHIT when I mostly covered Republicans for 20 years. I'm pointing out that I paid dues and earned the right to pick which stories I think are more important, and giving me a hard time about criminal justice issues. It's particularly ridiculous when you've done anywhere near as much work there as I have. Let me know. Also, I don't concede that the last year plus of stories like the Twitter files have been partisan. That only makes sense if you concede the Democrats have abandoned the First Amendment. 15 years ago, I'd have been accused of being too liberal for the same material, unquote. Interestingly, Zed deleted some of those tweets.
Okay, so this is later in the segment. I put the little flash edit there. Okay, so there's just a brief summation of the dust up and the pushback. Now here's Briahna adding her takes on top of it. And everything she's about to say, by the way, is wrong. Everything she says here, from here to the end, we're going to play it straight through, is totally wrong, as Taibbi shows when he gets on the show. But go ahead. Do you have anything quick?
Yeah, and let me just say, because what Jelani really accused Taibbi of is being captured by his audience, claiming that he's become a millionaire from his right-wing audience. I question that contention. I mean, I've been a subscriber to Taibbi for a very long time. I'm not right-wing. Nobody that I know who subscribes to Taibbi is someone I would describe as right-wing. You know, that is really falling into the definition of right-wing that the censors want you to have. Anybody who's for free speech. So they're all right-wing. Like, I don't know where you'd, it's not like Taibbi and does a lot of, ranting and raving about fast food workers getting a raise. So why would he have a right-wing audience? Like, why are you even assuming that?
Well, we'll get into that as the main video plays. But here are some of Brie's arguments that, and like I said, just about everything she says here is not correct. We're not going to keep stopping because we're going to get to the main video. But here it is.
Of those tweets, Matt Taibbi has admitted that he has declined to criticize Musk publicly in a series of private DMs that he released just a month or so ago. Wrong. He said to him on April of last year, Elon, I've repeatedly declined to criticize you and have nothing to do with your beef with Substack. This is when they were feuding over that. Is there a reason why I'm being put in the middle of these things, etc.? And Matt has also not only admitted that he's declined to criticize Musk because he wanted to keep getting information reporting on the Twitter files. And I don't say that nefariously. I think that it is something that journalists have to weigh. It's described as access journalism, but there's a bit of a push and pull of how much am I going to be willing to put up with to get newsworthy information that is of the public interest? Do I want to throw it all away for a personal peccadillo? I completely get that. But that kind of admission, timed so long after the substantial bulk of the Twitter files papers had been released, and him to date still not really criticizing Elon Musk openly on any number of these issues, does seem to suggest that maybe there's something other than just trying to preserve his relationship for the sake of journalism. In the text exchange that I just read, Matt Taibbi was asking him if he had been shadow banned, and Elon Musk did not deny it. He replied to that Taibbi text, "You are dead to me. Please get off Twitter and just stay on Substack." So this is a contemporary instance where Taibbi has evidence that he is censoring a major reporter like Matt Taibbi and has declined, until Elon leaked some of this exchange, declined for a year, almost a year, to actually tell the public of this. Is that not an important censorship story to cover as well? If you are, and this is related to what we were just talking about, if you are substantively and genuinely committed in looking at censorship campaigns, you are going to at least do an investigation, do a search, do a word search that is broader than just terms that are associated with attacks on the right. And when I interviewed him on my show, I was really surprised because Taibbi was kind of like a Bernie guy. I was surprised that he didn't, even out of the Vegas curiosity, put Bernie or any of those other 2016 or 2020 related search terms into it to even see if there was any censorship happening. Now, maybe there wasn't. And that this is me and the left having a sense of our outside side importance. And maybe it is true that the censorship against the left isn't as big as the censorship against the right, because the left is not as powerful as the right. That might be true. But if you never even looked, you cannot make that claim. Didn't they look?
Okay, see, I take it back. I said everything she said there was wrong. No, she actually said one thing right, which is that she has an inflated view of the left's relevance. So see how I said she got everything wrong there, and then once the facts bore out that she actually said something true, I say, my mistake, my bad. I said she got everything wrong. She said something right. That's all she had to do in this situation, and this wouldn't have blown up the way it did. But she didn't. So That was just a barrage of lies. I mean, that was nonsense. Yeah, yes. It was all nonsense. So we're going to explain why.
Which especially to be saying this now when the facts have been pretty well established. I mean, Taibbi has responded to some of what she's mentioning, like the idea. First of all, Glenn already knocked down the whole premise. Like, what if it was selective? Would you not have taken the Pentagon Papers because you don't know what has been emphasized and what you're given? Do you not print the Pentagon Papers for that reason? So it's already knocked down on that basis. So why are you even talking about it? But Taibbi has also responded to this idea that they were led one way or the other. And he said, listen, it's possible, but they would be, Musk had just taken over when he started the Twitter files. And he was saying these were 100,000 emails that took us months to go through. So the idea that they would, because they would drop 20,000 or another 20,000, the idea that they were able to vet all of those before they gave them to you is highly improbable.
All right, let's take a look now. So now, because of that, they bring Taibbi back on to clear the air on these things. So let's take a look. This is a lot of video here, but part of what we have to demonstrate here is her refusal to just simply admit that she got some things wrong, and that would have been that. But anyway, let's get started.
I understand that you think that I and Zed Jelani in my attempt to articulate what Zed Jelani's position was got some things wrong. Where do you think we erred?
Well, Briahna, I mean, obviously, I don't want to be difficult about this, but there were a bunch of things on your show that were, I thought were concerning. Number one, you said that I waited a year to tell everybody what happened with Elon. I actually didn't do that. I announced it the day that it happened in an article that I know that you read because you've referenced it on the air before. I talked about being placed under a blanket search ban and all the other things that had been done, including the removal of the Twitter file stories. So the notion that I didn't tell the world that influential journalists had been censored, that's not true. I've done that repeatedly in the last year, and I did it as soon as it happened in my case. It's also not true that I've declined to criticize him in the past year, and that I've still declined to do so. I've done it fairly regularly, as a matter of fact. Some of those instances have actually kind of gone viral. I gave an interview to Chris Cuomo, for instance, where I talked about how he's been a big disappointment on free speech. I've gone after him on his own platform, calling him out multiple times in the last year. Another thing that I found was concerning, you said that when I was declining to answer questions, for instance, that things that Mehdi Hassan was asking me about, say, for instance, Elon's speech policies with India, you said that the Twitter file searches had been done and that as far as you understood it, we had gotten them all in one cache at the beginning of the process. I don't know where you got that from. I'm actually curious to ask because that wasn't the case. We had multiple, it was dozens of different document dumps, and we were getting them at different times, and I was actually due to get results right up until the moment that Elon had his meltdown and I was cut out of the process.
Let's take those two. Let's take both of those, Taibbi. So 100%, I'm not as clear on the timeline of how these things happened as you, but the core point that I was articulating and that I think was reflected in some of the pushback that you've been getting is that we have from you in
those aren't core point issues. Those are fact issues.
I completely concede them. I have no investment in a misstatement that I made. So I want to get to what I meant.
That's
I completely
really
concede.
Quite a thing for a reporter or a commentator to say
that way. Yes,
I have no investment in a misstatement that I made. You should have an investment in the misstatement that you made. You should just correct it. Right. The core point and the timeline are the same thing. Her point had everything to do with the timeline. She said that Taibbi did not criticize Elon Musk for a full year after the Twitter files fell apart. That is absolutely
which
untrue.
Is so transparently false. I can't even believe she went on on her show and said that.
He did not leak the text message until a year later. We covered that when it happened. It wasn't quite a year later. What was it, 8 months later? We did a stupid little segment on that. What was it, a couple months ago? That came a while later. But he spoke out about why his relationship with Elon had fallen apart pretty much at the time, as we will see in just a second.
And completely consistent with the emails he recently released. There's no bombshell in there. If you read that first article, there's nothing that you saw in that said, oh, well, this is completely different from what he said. It's completely consistent with what he claimed went on between them.
Yes. And the other major point there that she tries to get in on him is that she said that he already had all of his materials at once. Therefore, he didn't have to maintain a relationship with Elon? Whereas he said, no, that's not true. We were being fed materials on a rolling basis. But anyway, we can move on.
But the core issue from my perspective is not the specific timeline, which I completely accept. I may have misrepresented or misremembered. But but
if you misrepresented the timeline, that means you got your points wrong, because you are accusing him of withholding information about Elon for almost a full year. That's your whole point.
Right.
Your whole point is that he sat on damning information about Elon Musk for a long time. When if you're conceding that you got the timeline mixed up, then aren't you conceding the point? Why can't you just concede the point?
Right. And I got to say, good on Matt, man. Like, everyone commented with the Mehdi Hassan thing.
Yeah, that he got rolled.
He got rolled by Mehdi. He absolutely came into this prepared. I don't know if he got together with the most obnoxious prick he knows to train him for situations like this. But he handled himself very well. It was very different from because he's a nice guy. We've interviewed him twice. I met him once personally. He's especially given what human ugliness he explores by nature of his job and the kinds of topics that interest him. He's surprisingly open and kind. And I think this kind of behavior takes him aback. But after what happened with Hassan, I think he's more prepared for it.
Statement in the text messages that you released between you and Elon Musk, in which you said, quote, Elon, I've repeatedly declined to criticize you, and I had nothing to do with your beef on Substack. So can you appreciate how people could read a statement like that and say, well, obviously at some point, Matt Taibbi had criticisms of Elon Musk that he chose not to make public. And maybe there's a very good journalism reason for you to think, I'm doing this so that I can get more Twitter files. Yeah, that's completely reasonable, but that is also a negotiation, right?
Briahna, we'll get to that in a moment, but you also went into a whole tirade about how I waited a year to release the information that I had been censored, and that is just totally factually
untrue. What I was referring to was that
you also
well, let me clarify. Well, Matt Taibbi, I don't mean to argue with you. I have no investment. I have no interest in attacking you or making you look bad. If I got something wrong, let's talk about it. So what I was pointing to, and correct me if I'm wrong.
You got a lot wrong, and he is talking about it.
Yes,
and you want to move on. These are, these are
you did an entire segment
tricks.
Smearing a journalist's credibility.
Yeah.
And you just want to move on?
Yeah.
This doesn't have to be adversarial, Matt. What I was pointing to is the fact that these text messages are from April 10th of 2023. And the reporting on the text messages is from February 16th of 2024. That's the year gap that I'm referring to. So help me understand why is it that there was the release, the reporting on the title of this New Republic article, for instance, called Twitter Files, Matt Taibbi says Elon Musk sent him unhinged messages. That reporting happened in February of 2024. But the messages themselves are dated April of 2023, almost a year before.
But Briahna, you know this because, and again, I can't stress this enough. I know this because you've referenced the article that I wrote. The day that happened, I put out an article on my site called Meet the Censored: Me that detailed everything that happened, including the fact that I had been placed under a blanket search ban and that my own Twitter files had been taken down temporarily from Twitter. In fact, I had to explain this at some length to the audience so that they understood why I was uploading the Twitter files on my site, because they had been taken down from X. The only thing that was new about that article that you referenced was that I was trying to tweak Elon maybe into communicating by releasing the actual snapshots of the text exchange.
Okay, so the releasing of the snapshots was February 2024. I figured that was about a few weeks ago, a couple months ago, just based on when we covered it. But the piece that he came out with was not in February 2024. No. Meet the Censored Me came out last year at this time. So, Russell, you actually have some pieces of that article.
Yeah, okay. So this is where what she did here is just unconscionable.
Yeah, look at the date on that. Just look at the date on that.
All right. So this is from April 13th, right?
Yeah.
April 13th, 2023. This was right when this happened. So not only are we going to see that Taibbi laid out everything that happened other than to actually release the personal exchange, which he did later, but that exchange was completely consistent with what he said from the beginning. He was also pretty insulting towards Elon. It's not like he pulled his punches. So let's see what he said. So this is, he's describing all of a sudden his Twitter was cut off and he didn't have access and he was shadow banned. So I asked Substack co-head Hamish McKenzie what was going on. He said he wasn't sure, but offered that they just announced a new notes program the day before. I had to ask, what's that? I had no clue what Substack Notes was. As many unfortunately know now, my next move was to ask Elon what was going on. He didn't answer right away, which is fine. The man is busy, but the math on this was pretty simple. Whatever was going on between Twitter and Substack had nothing to do with me or with other Substack writers. And if Twitter was going to label our work unsafe and not allow us to share my articles, I couldn't endorse all this by using the platform and said so. This prompted a quick ping and a furious Signal question. So you want Substack to kill Twitter? I thought about asking him if he was okay. Substack is like 1,000 times smaller than Twitter, but figured that wouldn't go over well and tried a Socratic approach. What would he have me do if I couldn't share links and market my work? The answer? Post articles to Twitter instead, enabling a subscription plan. I would get more subscribers that way, I was told. This idea had come up about a month before, and I'd cheerfully declined, telling them I was happy where I was. I didn't think that had been a serious request, but now realized it might have been and tried to focus on the next line of text. All right, so you're dealing with a psycho. How do you get out of it, right?
Absolute psycho.
That's what he's
Could
describing.
you imagine being an established writer on a platform like Substack, which has proven to be a no bullshit free speech platform, not like Elon's, which is a fake free speech,
none of this Queen
nonsense.
of Hearts off with their heads bullshit. You never know day to day what the deranged CEO is going to do.
Exactly. You've got thousands of people supporting you on a tried and tested free speech platform that is inherent to long form video, audio, and written content, unlike Twitter. You're going to leave that platform to go and be a pioneer of this new subscription model on an ADD platform of quick scroll and character limited posts run by a guy who, depending on what side of the bed he wakes up on any given day, is either telling advertisers to go fuck themselves or flying to Israel to give Netanyahu a hand job. That's what you're going to do? Like, it is fucking insane to think. And there would be an ethical issue there as well,
he gets into later.
So we won't get into that now. But on top of the ethical issue, as a professional, you got to be out of your fucking mind to leave Substack for Twitter. If you're Matt Taibbi.
Well, you could see, he's put in this position where he's a journalist, which frankly Briahna has never been. Yes, she has been an opinion writer for various outlets, Current Affair, CNN, I think at one point, a couple of others, but she's not a journalist. She's not a journalist. She doesn't seem to understand what journalists do. Skipping over the part where it's weird and inappropriate to expect someone to leave a job, I moved to a more bottom line observation, namely that if I moved, quote, people would say I'm essentially an employee of Twitter, and both of us would never hear the end of it. Then and now, I was genuinely trying to protect Elon from his own ideas. He didn't see it that way and said that was goodbye. Through a fatalistic laugh, I asked if this was because I wouldn't leave Substack, to which he reiterated it was because I'd chosen to, quote, support a company that wants to kill Twitter. Okay, so does he go easy on Elon? No. During this time, I was also performatively unfollowed. What grade are we in? And had my Signal exchanges posted. All this apparently because Elon somehow came to believe I was scheming to set aside work on the Twitter files to pursue my real goal, i.e. helping kill Twitter by working with a company a tiny fraction of its size to build a social media app I'd never heard of. I've done a lot of drugs and can't remember ever reaching that level of paranoia. The episode reminded me of Bananas, when Woody Allen's Fielding Mellish character toils with Marxist revolutionaries in a Central American jungle to change the system, only to see fearless leader General Emilio Molina Vargas lose his mind after seizing power. From this day on, the official language of San Marcos will be Swedish. All children under 16 years old are now 16 years old. My favorite gag in that is everyone has to change their underwear every hour and wear it on the outside so we can check.
Right.
You've never seen Bananas. Check it out. In doing all this, Elon immolated the last remnants of any reputation he had as a free speech advocate and gave immeasurable succor to the assorted David Brocks, AOCs, and Renee DiRestas who view him as an antichrist. All can now point to his outbursts of cartoon censorship and argue individual eccentric CEOs are the real danger to free expression, not squads of executives working in oligopolistic secrecy with the FBI, DHS, and 10 million Pentagon-funded centers for securing whatever. Oh, yeah, man. He hasn't said anything about this until now. He hasn't said anything about this. That is April 2023. Oh, yeah, I almost forgot. You know, that wasn't the only thing he said about this. He also got together with a couple of schmucks and talked about how he thought, if you haven't seen this clip, we did an extended interview with him back in December. He talked about how he thought Elon Musk might have multiple personality disorders. Now, now the overall, what happened with him and Elon, he has talked before. As far as I know, we're the only ones who have Taibbi talking about his possible multiple personality disorders. So check it out.
Yes. But as clearly demonstrated there, he was pretty thorough in terms of his falling out with Elon and why, including some pretty harsh words for him in April 2023. When that happened, that article was 2-3 days after those text messages were sent.
Well, and he has been talking about this in every interview where it comes up for over a year. That's why I'm saying this is unconscionable. It's unconscionable that she said something like that.
Yeah, and to not just admit it, he says, I've been happy with a correction, right? Anyway, let's get back to it.
There's no new information in there except for some of his, behavioral stuff. But the stuff about the censorship, I quoted directly from that the day that it happened. So again, there's no substantive way you can claim that I held back any information about that incident until this year. I've been talking about it. In fact, the only reason I don't talk about it more is because I'm afraid of boring people about it.
I think we might be just confusing a couple of different things here. Of course, we covered and we've talked at length about the big blow up in and of itself about Substack and Elon having this kind of bizarre misunderstanding of what Substack was and feeling like it was somehow competing with Twitter and wanting you not to publish on your own Substack. Of course, we covered that. And that is not what I was referring to. As I just mentioned, I'm talking about this gap between the text, the obviously dissonant exchange that you were having with Elon Musk, in which you articulated a concern that, you had been withholding criticisms of Elon Musk, and he didn't seem to be kind of responding to that.
That's a different thing, and that's not what you were saying in your show. You were saying that I held back from the world, that an influential journalist had been censored. Go back and listen to this.
Wait a minute.
Look at the
But
transcript
that's
of your
what
own
I'm
show.
referring to. I'm referring to your quote here. And I wonder if you could just, because I think it might be a little boring for the audience for it to become some interpersonal dispute between us. And also, I
understand you want to move on to this other thing, but that's not what happened.
I specifically quoted.
I would have.
Yeah, so once again, just completely misrepresenting the timeline. We don't have to go over it again, but we laid it out for you right there. All right, so now he says, look, I'd have been happy with a simple retraction, right? But since you're not going to give that to me, here they go again.
I've been happy with a correction, but since you're not going to do that, okay. The other two were, you were saying that essentially that I had done searches only for one side and not the other.
Well, Matt, let's talk about that. I didn't say you had done searches for one side or than the other. I said I had you on my show, and you got very bristly with me at that time as well. I wish we could have these conversations without them turning into these weird personal vendettas. I think we'd.
He did not get bristly with you. You got bristly with him. You kept on absolutely insisting, talking about his first appearance on her show after the Twitter files. She kept insisting that there was evidence of left suppression that she strongly implied he had intentionally, willfully overlooked, or at the very least been incompetent in not looking for it. And he answered her quite rightly. I think the reason we didn't find it is because they don't consider the left that kind of a threat. So they didn't bother to do that to the left.
Yeah, but the key thing is, I mean, yes, that's all true. But the key thing is what he says here.
Have a lot more productivity in the space if we did.
Let's not have
but
any
wait a minute.
vendettas,
Robbie, this is not necessary for you to intervene at this juncture. What I said to you on my show was I asked you if you had ever done a search about Bernie Sanders specifically and censorship against the left kind of Bernie Sanders movement back in 2016. And you seemed, and I wish we had pulled up a clip, but people can go and look for it on themselves on Bad Faith Podcast, but you seemed almost kind of surprised and caught off guard by that question. And you answered truthfully, no. And I said, well, that seems to me from my own subjective political interest. They don't have to be interests that you share, obviously. But from my own subjective political interest as a leftist, a kind of curious choice. Is that not accurate?
First of all, that's just a ridiculous formulation. From my subjective political interest as a leftist, it seemed like a curious choice for you not to seek out censorship of the left. Now, what he answers here is very important, and then we'll talk more.
Well, yes, but you're implying that I was looking in the other direction and not in that direction. I wasn't looking in either direction.
I said a factual statement, which was that you...
Okay, that is lawyer bullshit. Of course you implied that he put into his search suppression of Donald Trump, anti-Trump censorship, and didn't because he is biased in favor of the right wing, according to this insinuation that you're trying to make, didn't decide to do the same search anti-Bernie sentiment. Of course you're implying that he searched for anti-right-wing censorship, but not anti-left-wing censorship. What he actually did was run a search of the agencies who were doing the censoring and found that they more often censored the right than the left. You know why they more often censored the Trump right than the Bernie left? Because Trump is a winner and Bernie Sanders is a pathetic fucking loser. That's why. And that is what Briahna Joy Gray refuses to accept. Look, we have praised Briahna Joy Gray plenty on this show.
Recently.
She is amazing on a lot of topics, including the topic of our time. Okay? But there is a common thread, there is a common thing that shows itself throughout all of her stupid bullshit takes.
You're a rich girl, and you're going too far, 'cause you know it don't matter anyway.
Well, that's not it. That's not what I was going for. The common thread in all of her bullshit takes.
That was Taibbi. We called him. That was the quote he gave us.
Exactly. Yeah. Is a refusal to admit defeat. A refusal to admit that the left is not as powerful as she thinks it ought to be because she's a competitor. She's a lawyer. Lawyers are paid to go out and win. But commentators and journalists have to prioritize the truth above everything else. And whether it's comparing construction paper to talk about, biological women versus trans women, or whether it is trying to accuse Matt Taibbi of somehow seeking out anti-right-wing censorship instead of anti-left-wing censorship. Where she gets in trouble is when that very competitive streak in her takes priority over what is just plainly true. And what's plainly true is that there was more censorship against the right in 2020 than there was against the left, because Trump was the president and was going to be re-elected handily, if not for the pandemic. And Bernie Sanders, cuck that he was, lost the primary after the party conspired against him and stuck his tail in between his legs and endorsed his good friend Joe and said, we have to have the guts to stand up to the billionaires but vote for Joe Biden. Who would censor that? Who would censor? What is that's not a threat to anybody. Why the fuck are they going to censor that? Why are they going to censor that? He's irrelevant. The people on his campaign are fucking irrelevant, and that includes you, Briahna. To the extent that you were a Bernie Sanders operative, you lost. And look, I understand. Losing sucks. Eating shit sucks. I'm a very competitive person. I was kicked out of my 4th birthday party because I lost the pin the tail of the donkey and I had a tantrum because I couldn't believe it was so embarrassing that on my own birthday I had lost. So I had a fit. I couldn't handle it. I know what it's like to be a competitive person, and I know how much it hurts to lose. You don't think we were all pissed off that we lost those Bernie campaigns? But you have to admit that you lost, and you have to admit that Bernie Sanders sold the movement out and therefore constituted no threat to any institutional power whatsoever. So, of course, there would be more censorship of the Trump right than of the Bernie left. The Trump right had power. They had power. They had actually scared the shit out of these agencies. Bernie Sanders was no threat to anybody. And he made that point on your show. And as Russell just said, you got bristly with him when he brought that up, not the other way around. And now you're suggesting that the reason the Twitter files didn't uncover more bombshells about anti-Bernie censorship is because he didn't look. No, it's because it wasn't there, because Bernie Sanders is a fucking jackass.
Yes. And something else you see throughout this that, we'll get into it a little more when we look at my tweet about this. Something that I have no patience for is the poor little rich girl routine. You attacked and smeared this guy. You decided to revive these accusations about the Twitter files that you had been roundly criticized for and rebuked for a year ago. You decide to take this as an opportunity, in keeping with what Keaton's saying. You couldn't just take the L. You had to just take the L. It happens. Back into the public square and relitigate the Twitter files again. And throughout this, you play the victim. Oh, we don't have to make this a personal thing. What could be more personal than these repeated attacks you've been making on how he handled the Twitter files? That is personal. That is very personal. And by this time, you have no excuse. By this time, you know better. You've been educated about this by many people who actually have chops as journalists, unlike yourself. So you have no excuse now. Ignorance. You cannot plead ignorance. And to say, okay, concede, but that's no. That doesn't work. And kudos to Matt. He doesn't let her get away with it. But this is what she always does. She'll take, even when she takes a good stand, she has to go cry about people being mean to me on Twitter. Well, why don't you go, hey, they pay $20 an hour now. Why don't you go work it in an hour? Okay? If it's that hard on you, Briahna. Otherwise, you're living a pretty good life. Shut the fuck up about how people get mean to you on Twitter.
All right, we got more.
Admitted that you hadn't searched specifically for kind of Bernie-related material.
That is
That's
true,
all
but
I said. Right?
But I wasn't looking for information on the right either. I was looking at the DHS, FBI, ODNI, the Global Engagement Center, the Election Integrity Partnership. Those are the kinds of searches I was doing. The stuff that was turning up is the stuff that was turning up. And just to get this out of the way, you also said that I hadn't reported on this issue. I've only reported on this issue in one direction. That I haven't. That mainstream media. There aren't people in mainstream media who are doing coverage of this issue from the concerns of the left side. I've been doing that for years. I've been constantly writing about censorship of figures on the left.
Yeah, I think you're right about that, Matt. But if I could articulate, I think what the concern is and what Zed was saying, what others have been saying, it's because you've done so much of that good reporting. And I said this in the episode last time. It's because you've done so much of that reporting from the left perspective that is so important and so valuable in the left sphere that there is a frustration that reporting hasn't seemed to continue. since the last few years or so. And so
you have the right to be frustrated about that, but that does not impugn his work. Like, I understand you probably wish that he were digging around for, examples of the Bernie movement being screwed over. Okay, well, I mean, you can wish he did that more. You're free to wish that, but that does not impugn his work. The fact that he chose to do a broader, and I would argue more important, search of where these agencies saw their place to actually go in and interfere with the speech rights of anyone, left or right. And as he mentions, there was some examples of left suppression uncovered in those searches. That's what he felt was more important to do. You can be frustrated about it. That's your right to be frustrated about it, but that doesn't have anything to do with him. No, she's upset. She's upset that this person who she used to see as on her team is now doing something that is not specifically serving the interests of her political sect, which has become irrelevant, which is the Bernie, DSA, Social Democrat left, which has failed at every single possible turn. Okay, and if you want to take that up with somebody, try Bernie Sanders, right? He had the choice to fall in line or continue fighting his quote-unquote revolution, and he caved. So take it up with him. Don't start telling journalists it's their responsibility to give you the emotional gratification that comes with feeling you got screwed over. We all know the Bernie movement got screwed over. That doesn't make it his responsibility to prove that to you in these searches. Anyway, let's keep going.
Well, not only that. I mean, if I'm remembering correctly, and I think I am, they went through 100,000 emails. What was there was there. That's journalism. They went through what they had, and they reported on what they found. I don't even understand why she's still talking about this.
Because
do you understand what journalists do? Do you understand what they do? They were given this, and by all accounts, they thoroughly went through everything. If that evidence had been there, they would. Do you think he wouldn't have reported it? Like, do you think he's suppressing it? I don't think she believes that. So if you don't believe that, shut up. What are you even talking about at this point?
I'm telling you, it's because she hates to lose. She's a competitor. She's a lawyer. Lawyers get paid to win. They fucking hate to lose, and I get it. I hate to lose, but sometimes you lose. So rather than deny that or try and rationalize that or try and come up with some sort of excuse for that over and over again, even when it comes to suggesting that this guy didn't do his job right, when his job had nothing to do with your hurt feelings over the waste of time that was the Bernie Sanders campaign, you should just take the L and move on. Lawyers don't get paid to do that. And I think that is why she runs into these problems.
When you DM'd me about your concerns about what I said, but Matt, when you DM'd me about your concerns about the last segment, you linked several articles, the most recent of which was from 2022. There was another from 2018.
Sure, the one about the labor files was just a few months ago, and that was a huge series that I invested a lot in. The Twitter files themselves were full of material about the left. But let's
talk about it. Maybe I just am not aware of it. What Twitter file materials is were germane to the interests of the left? I'd love to hear about them.
The issue with consortium, for instance.
What's the issue with consortium?
What difference does that even make? He goes on and gives an answer about consortium
this is
and NewsGuard.
Very interrogative, like a lawyer, not like an interview.
Well, what about the Twitter files was germane to the interests of the left? How irrelevant is that to the substance of the story? It's completely irrelevant. And the answer I wish he'd have given is censorship is germane to the issues of the left, as was proven after October 7th when the left actually posed a threat because those student groups were actually disrupting the narrative that the media was putting forward about the Israel-Gaza war, and they were censored when they posed a threat. The students for Gaza posed a threat. The ceasefire protesters threatened the system in a way that Bernie dipshit fucking Sanders never could and never would. And so censorship as a whole is an issue germane to the left. But beyond that, it's an irrelevant, it's a stupid question. Like it's such a stupid and petty crybaby thing to ask. What did you do for me? What was in the Twitter files for me? What was in it for you is not his problem. If you're not interested in the story, don't be interested. Don't cover it. Don't talk about it. But you don't have to piss on it just because it doesn't serve your specific DSA Bernie Sanders movement's interest in the short term. It's not his responsibility to do that.
Right. And if you look at his reporting, this was right around when we interviewed him, because right afterwards he did that event in Brooklyn. And he was going out basically to preach the evangel of, hey, you've got these shadowy organizations working with the government to ban you. And he was doing a slideshow showing CISA. And in terms of relevance to the left, he was involved in the reporting on NewsGuard, which was funded by the Pentagon, and doing ratings that did affect the left, rating left sites like Consortium News as unreliable. So he has done that. So if you're going to do a segment, you need to know what you're talking about, especially if you're going to make these kinds of accusations, and they are accusations. You're making accusations against Matt Taibbi of having a bias that he brought into the Twitter files and of basically serving the right. She's not saying it the way that Jelani said it, but she's reinforcing, she's building on that. She's going with Jelani's premise, right? That he's been captured by a right-wing audience. She doesn't say that straight out like Jelani does, but it's implied in everything that she's saying. And it's not even true on the face of it, as he's pointing out. I'm a subscriber. I know what he reports. He does report things about the left wing, but he also reports things about conservatives. We used to call that fucking journalism. That shouldn't surprise you if you read Hate Inc., in which Taibbi really kind of laments that the media has become so bifurcated and lost that principle of journalism simply being follow the facts, follow them wherever they go.
Exactly.
About,
and then we're going to have
Bari
to wrap,
Weiss.
so can you get in one more thing?
Bari Weiss making a very different decision than you, obviously. She criticized, I think, kind of mildly.
Okay, this is the other totally dishonest thing. Okay, here we go. So now she talks about Bari Weiss had a falling out with Elon. She stood up to him. Why didn't you?
Elon Musk's choice to censor the Elon Jets account and was immediately booted from the project. Did you feel like that was a sort of an intimidating warning across the bow? And did you consider whether there could have been a kind of collective effort to say, okay, well, if you're going to fire Bari Weiss from this project, you'll have to fire all of us because we agree with the value that Bari Weiss is standing up for right now, which is that you have to either be for free speech broadly and universally or not.
When the thing with Barry happened, look, we were all texting each other, but frankly, Briahna, for me, this is not a difficult calculation. Standing up to Elon Musk, let's say we all stood up to Elon Musk. We stood as one. We rose as one and said, we will not do this story unless you repudiate, you stand up for free speech. And then he booted us all off and we never got any Twitter files, which is what happened after he got in the spat with me. What would the value of that have been? It would have been zero. The Twitter files was a historically important story, and I'm sorry. As a journalist,
do you regret arguing with him about the Substack then, and perhaps being able to get more out of the Twitter files? Because eventually you had your own line, right?
There's nothing I could have done about the Substack thing. They came to me and said, "Do you want to move to Twitter subs?" And I said no, because there was an ethical problem there. And frankly, I was trying to protect the reporting. I would have moved to Twitter subs if there wasn't an ethical issue there. If I did do that, people would have said that I had a financial relationship to Elon Musk, and they would have invalidated all the reporting. So I couldn't do it. I was put into a yes or no situation. I had to say no, and when I said no, that was the end.
Yeah, so that's important. So it was, the way she presents that is, well, you eventually had your ethical or moral red line with Elon, where you stood up to him because he was going to force you to abandon Substack for X. And what he's saying is, no, I didn't stand up to him and say enough is enough, I'm staying with Substack and that means we're done, the way Barry Weiss stood up to him. He's saying, look, I had to keep this guy happy for as long as I could because I'm dealing with a total fucking man-child who just happens to be sitting on a treasure trove of important information. Right. He knew that once it came to, if and when it came to Elon giving him the ultimatum, either leave Substack or lose the files, he was going to have to lose the files because he couldn't leave Substack. So he got everything he could have gotten out of Elon. Right. There's no more he could have gotten out of it because he kept his mouth shut until Elon gave him the ultimatum. When Elon gave him the ultimatum, he chose to stay with Substack, and that was the end of the line, and there was nothing he could do about it. He didn't choose to take a moral stand later than Barry Weiss, which was Briahna's 100% incorrect accusation.
Yeah, well, you can see, like a lawyer, she's trying to get him to contradict himself. She's trying to, she's grilling him. She's grilling him like a witness. She's not interviewing him like a guest. She as you say, she needs to win, and she's relitigating something she humiliated herself with over a year ago. That's what this is about. She just decided to open this whole subject up again because this Substack note of Taibbi's had gained some traction.
Right.
So, and what do you say to the Palestine criticism, just quickly? Because that was a big part of what Zed Jelani was arguing about, that he feels like you were so amazing on Palestine years ago, but haven't been as vocal about it post October 7th.
Being amazing on Palestine. I've never written about Palestine except in the context of censorship, which I have written about repeatedly.
But I think that's the issue. In contemporary censorship, do you have any thoughts on that quickly before we wrap?
Yeah, as I've always said, the Palestinians are pretty much the canary in the coal mine for any new form, any new censorship technology. And, you know, we saw it started as early as 2014, 2015 with the internet stuff, and it's only gotten worse. It's going to get worse. But that's the template that I'm worried about happening here. But it's not like I haven't said anything about that. I have repeatedly.
Okay, we're going to play the end of this video in just a second, but I do want to chime in here because if she actually wanted to do a tough, hard-hitting segment, she should have just asked that question first and then had a conversation about Palestine and the censorship around that. Because when Russ and I last interviewed Matt, we noticed that he hadn't written about that as much as we had hoped he would, frankly. And when we were gaming out the interview questions, we talked to each other about, hey, okay, so we want to start with the campus protests issue because that's the most important issue of the day. This was December 6th, I think we had him on. And we are assuming we got about 90 minutes, so we're planning on spending about 20 minutes on, the ceasefire protest groups being shut down and get his take on that. And we asked ourselves and each other, like, we've noticed he's been a little quiet about this, maybe because he's made friends with Barry Weiss, right? And so there's a chance he might stonewall about us with this. There's a chance he might try and change the subject or dodge the question. And if he does that, we're going to have to force the issue. Like, we can't let, we like the guy, but we can't let him wiggle out of that. This is the most important issue of our time. We're leading with this. So if he tries to duck us, it's going to get a little uncomfortable. We were a little nervous about that. Turns out we ended up having the exact opposite problem. Half hour into the interview, we're still talking about the Palestine issue to the point where I'm texting Russell, okay, we have to move on. We have other topics. And Russell, of course, ignored it and asked him another Palestine question, another Palestine question, another Palestine question. We ended up talking about Palestine for almost an hour. So I wish he had written about it more. I think that's valid to ask him, why haven't you written about it more, and get his takes on that. But when we asked him about it, he was very forthcoming. He criticized Douglas Murray. He criticized Israel. He said Israel's acting the same way we did after 9/11, where we are conflating opposition to Israel's war policies with being some sort of terrorist sympathizer. Like, he was pretty good with what he told us, and he wasn't shy about it, and he didn't try to duck it or keep a short answer. We talked for almost an hour about it. And he ended up giving us 2.5 hours, so it's not like it cut into other time. We were a little nervous about that going in, but luckily he seemed to have passed that test in terms of our interview.
And I will say, as somebody who's followed his work for years, that has never been a focus of his writing. That's not really what he does. He's not an international reporter. He's really more in keeping with journalists like Thomas Wolfe, an observer of American life and American institutions.
Basically, media criticism,
he's
financial corruption,
journalist.
And censorship.
Right.
Those are his 3 beats: media criticism, financial corruption, and free
Palestine's
speech
not his beat, but when he was asked about it, I mean, he wasn't slippery. He wasn't scared. He shared my first article about it after October 7th on his Substack, which was very much arguing
a full-throated defense of the protest. Right. Yeah.
Right. It was a defense of the protests, and he promoted that article, which I was very appreciative of. So it's just another in a series of very dishonest attempts to smear him, to make him look bad, to get him on his back heel. This is not an interview. This is an interrogation. She put him on the witness stand, and she keeps trying to trip him up. And like I say, I'm joking about it, but it seems like he practiced with somebody. It really does. Like after Hassan, he decided, if I'm going to keep doing these kinds of interviews that are hostile, I need to be more prepared for that.
He probably went to right-wing debate school. Probably went to, did a PragerU.
He went to PragerU.
PragerU crash course. All right, last bit about this. She tries to continue the conversation.
Matt, thank you so much for coming here. Set the record straight. We really appreciate it, and we've loved.
I'm just going to say, look at her fucking face. She is fucking furious. She's furious. Why is she furious? Why is she furious? Because she knows that she didn't get the best of him. She knows she came off badly in this. And she can't just be like, my bad.
Having you on and featuring your reporting in the past.
And I'm happy to continue this conversation with you at length over on Bad Faith Podcast if you're ever interested. I really have no interest in getting things wrong, and I do appreciate you coming here to clarify. Thanks again.
Look at that. She's furious with him. Why? Because you were wrong. You can't be wrong. So this was just disgusting. You have anything else before I get into my tweet?
Nope.
All right. So I had my own take on this, and you know what? A lot of people weighed in, mostly positively. Some people were questioning my language, and I've had this debate back and forth with some of the people on our site over the years, who I affectionately call simps. So I said on this, all right, simps, tell me again how Briahna isn't dangerously dumb and fundamentally dishonest. Now, I was talking to Keaton about this, and he actually was questioning what I mean by dumb when I say that.
Well, because you misspoke originally. You said she was, at first you said she was fundamentally dumb, and I don't agree. I think she's fundamentally pretty smart. But I think what you meant to say was functionally dumb. Meaning that because she's so biased and because she's so hyper-competitive to a fault, she ends up saying the same things that a dumb person would say, even though she's not.
And that is exactly right. That is exactly what I mean. And I thought about this, like, well,
but you misspoke the first time. You said fundamentally dumb. That's why I was confused.
Okay, so I'm explaining.
Admit it. You were wrong. Admit you were wrong. Admit it.
Well, admit you were wrong about DeSantis. I kept saying there's no way he's going to be the nominee.
I will be fine with a simple correction, and then we can move on. Will you issue a correction?
I issue a correction.
Yeah,
what I meant.
See how easy that is? You see how easy that is, everybody? You issue a correction. Issue a correction.
That's what you could have done, and then they would have gone out for blueberry scones or something. But instead, I don't know that they're ever going to appear on anything together after that. This is what I mean. Look, I grew up on the street, and the people that I knew on the street were some of the most creative, funny, interesting, philosophical, outside-the-box people I've ever known to this day. When I went to college, the first thing that struck me was how boring and stupid everybody was by my standards. Now, this is the difference between book smart and street smart, right? From a street smart perspective, when I went to college, everyone struck me as stupid. Honestly, it's a sensibility that's never really left me. I'm not trying to make it out that everyone on the street is a noble savage. There was a lot of attitudes I didn't agree with and ideas that I didn't like. I'm not trying to say, oh, everything was great. It was a paradise with street lights and beer. I'm not saying that, but there's definitely a difference. There's a street smart and a book smart, and when I look at somebody like Briahna, obviously she's not what you might call congenitally stupid, meaning there's nothing wrong with her brain. She has a very good brain, but she's functionally stupid. And a lot of people who are very book smart are like that. They're functionally stupid. To go a little further than what Keaton's saying with the competitiveness, I don't think it's just that. Really looking at why did people strike me this way in college so much? I think it's because when you come from kind of a rougher environment, it's very Robert De Niro in The Deer Hunter. This is this. This is this. And a lot of times people who have had it soft are much more programmed. So it's like a feral animal looking at a domesticated animal. You can see how soft their mind is, how open to programming it is, how very often they can't see this is this. They just can't see that. And that's how you wind up with somebody who incontrovertibly has the equipment to think, who would literally say the difference between someone who identifies as a woman and somebody who's actually born as a woman is no greater than the difference between two shades of construction paper because they're both paper. That's stupid. That is Forrest Gump level stupid. To say she's said things like that in other contexts and other places about the same subject. It was not just there. No, because there's a dimension of it where in the end, she is from this PMC background. And if you signal to her the right kind of cultural signaling, she's going to align with it because she's programmed. She's programmed. Why did she take that position in the first place? Now you're arguing she made such a stupid. You're arguing she created such a stupid metaphor because she's competing. Why did she invest in this belief system to begin with?
Because that's the belief system of the left, and she wants the left to win.
It's the belief
and she
system
sees the left
of a PMC subsection of the left of which she is a part.
Yeah,
and that is stupid. To me, doesn't have to be stupid to everybody. To me, you're stupid if you can't see how irrational that belief is. She is, and the other part of what I said.
I believe she does see it.
I
believe she was stretching to make a case there.
Maybe, but the underlying belief that she's representing there, she said it in too many places for it to just be that she's competing. She is programmed to accept these kinds of liberal formulations as long as you present it to her in the right way. Somebody said to us, I don't know, I haven't checked it, I can't verify it. They said that she was recommending 1619 Project. Again, I don't know if it's true, but it would be consistent with what I know of her. We know that historians have come out and said that's historically inaccurate. But if you represent things to her in a certain cultural strata, she's programmed. She's programmed to accept those ideas. And she's also fundamentally dishonest in terms of the other part of what I said very recently. And I've been trying not to get into this, right? I mean, because usually there's just no point. I don't need to keep like beating up on somebody who I don't respect. Like I can just drop the subject, which I have been trying to do. In fact, I've been bending over backwards, like that Marianne segment. I really didn't bring any of these things up, just nothing but praise, because who needs it? Like I'm not seeking that kind of drama. But now it came up in a way that's relevant to bring up. Why do I think that it is better not to elevate her? Because for every good position she takes, she makes the left look ridiculous with the next position she takes. So it is not good to have somebody like that representing you. And, it has been suggested to me, and I think there might be something to it. In the end, you got a lot of working class people. Again, it's that peasant mind. You know why? You don't need PMCs to represent you. You don't need to kiss ass on people who presume to speak for your class, even though they've never been a part of it. That's what you get when you elevate people like that to speak for the working class. They embarrass you. They embarrass you. They wind up, in the end, they don't have your interests and they don't have your perspective. And for everything they say that you're going to like, in the end, they're going to sell you out, man. In the end, they're not with you. They don't think like you. They don't know people like you. They don't associate with people like you. They don't hang with people like, they might employ people like you, but they're not with you. The other day, this was very typical. She took a good position on the Scottish hate speech bill and then completely misrepresented J.K. Rowling. So that's why I say it's not just the construction paper. Everywhere she talks about those kinds of very liberal, identitarian subjects, she never questions the narrative. That, to me, is stupid. Now, you say the way that she goes about debating it is her competitiveness. Okay. But the belief itself is stupid. It is fundamentally stupid to me. To me, I think you're stupid if you are that open to that kind of programming. That's what I call dumb. It doesn't mean her brain is dumb, but you might as well be Forrest Gump if that's what comes out the other end.
Right. Well, that's what I said. That's what I said. But like I said, I believe that it is all born of a competitive streak where she sees this as a binary struggle between the right and the left. She's got this pasty fucking white boy on here bringing up stories left and right about Target boycott because of dick tucking pajamas, and she's sick of that, and she doesn't want to hear that, and she thinks it's ridiculous. And I agree with her that a lot of that is fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, but she's ridiculous on the other side.
But because that's the game. That's the game, right? And I'm not defending it, but that's my explanation for it. I think she is a Harvard-educated lawyer who gets paid to win, and she likes to win. And that, to me, is the source of it. But whatever. I mean, I don't particularly care how smart she is or how not smart she is. I don't particularly care about her as a representative.
So
I
wanted to address it.
I understand that, but I'm just saying I don't particularly care about her as a representative, as a person. I mean, she's not running for office, for anything. Like when she undresses, what's his name? What's the guy, the Epstein guy, the old guy, the lawyer, the guy, the Zionist.
Dershowitz. She had Dershowitz.
Yeah. When she undresses Dershowitz, not literally, that would be pretty gross. But when she picks him apart, I'm happy to give her credit for it. When she does something like this, I'm happy to call her out for it. I don't consider her a representative of the left any more than I would consider myself a representative for the left, where when I say something that people think is worth sharing, they should share it. If I say something that people don't like, they should give me as much shit for it as they want. That's their right. Well, so I don't really look at it in that way. I'll take it on a case-by-case basis.
Well, nobody's suggesting we should censor Briahna. I am just saying, because very often you have what I would call...
No, you're saying she shouldn't be a representative. I'm saying she's not. Like, I mean, fine, but she's not a representative. I'm saying
well, for a lot of people, she is. And I'm telling those people who I affectionately call simps, don't elevate her.
Well, you shouldn't elevate anybody. Her. I mean, you shouldn't elevate us.
Well,
I mean, you shouldn't elevate anybody.
Us, you should.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't elevate anybody to that point,
elevate
in all
me.
seriousness. Elevate Russ.
Keaton's a little unpredictable.
I mean, nobody. I mean, you shouldn't defend anybody no matter what. If we say something that pisses you off, you should let us know. Many of you have. That's your right. That's fine.
Well, I guess what I'm saying overall is Briahna sucks, and the good moments that she has are just not worth the toenails. I have compared her to a great meal with toenails in it. It's not worth the toenails.
I don't really agree.
With this exchange, it tipped it for me into it's just not worth the toenails.
I mean, but what? But how
every person has to decide that for themselves. I can't decide that for another person. That's my opinion.
But I don't understand the formulation of, okay, if she has Marianne on where she picked her apart in that last interview, what are you saying? We shouldn't we shouldn't cover that because she did it?
No, I'm not saying that.
So there you're saying. So you're saying, so we're not elevating her. We're giving her credit when she's right and we're giving her a hard time when she's wrong.
Cover it. It's our job. I'm saying if I am a casual viewer, I'm not a patron of Briahna's and I'm only going to watch her on the occasions that she does something like the Marianne or the Dershowitz thing.
All right.
She's not, hey, this comes up because whenever she comes up, how many chats do we get? No, she didn't mean that. All right, so I'm addressing that.
All right.
This is what I'm saying.
Okay, fine. But that's a little different from what I'm saying. I'm saying, yeah, fine. No, nobody should defend everybody no matter what. You shouldn't defend us no matter what. All right. All right, let's...
No, they should defend us no matter what. And what I'm saying is we evaluate people all the time. Jesus Christ, we built the fucking channel on fucking ripping apart another channel. Like, we evaluate people. And I'm saying evaluating this person. It's not that there can't be good work here and there, but, you know, you have to remember who you're dealing with. And while here and there that might be a good segment, to really go out there and defend this person, or yes, elevate this person.
I mean, I don't,
because I think when you're doing that, you are elevating them. Yo, man, you've been here for it. I didn't do it with Tusker, man, where you got 10 people defending Briahna. That's what I'm talking about. Like, don't defend her like that. I mean, if here and there you got a good segment, fine. Yeah, sure, we'll cover it. I think the space would be better off without her. I think somebody maybe with better views, who's not as much of a dishonest hypocrite, would fill that void and do those jobs, and you really don't need her to do it. That's my opinion.
All right. Mosaic, we're going to run through these super chats, and we're going to go to Rumble here for the Brie handling session. Russell, don't let Keaton make you go PC. Her behavior has been nuts. The compiler on the other place. Oh, is that your screen name on Rumble? Thank you, Mosaic. Seb, reminder, there's a ginger named Yosef in the IDF. Thank you, Seb Griffiths. Susan Jacobson, love your show. Russell, check your phone for a second, please. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much. Yeah, right, exactly. Eat hot chip and lie. Next few years will be that memory loss flash from Men in Black, with everyone claiming they were against the genocide the whole time. Also, just got donuts. $42 was a crime, man. Sorry that happened. Yeah, some people watching the Jimmy Dore show, those the $42 box of Joe and a dozen donuts. Sandy M, registering preemptive gratitude.
I only see stuff from my ex-wife.
Yeah, for setting Miss Rising Star straight. Oh, sorry. There you go. That'll fix that.
I wasn't kidding.
Yeah.
For my ex-wife.
Thank you, Sandy.
Where's that alimony? No.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
No alimony.
Super chats don't pay out for 2 more weeks. You'll get it. You'll get it when they come in. Israel's intent has always been to take Gaza. They aren't because of Hamas. Shouldn't we accept them as legitimate as Malaysia and other countries have? Thank you, AK. Are you guys prepping for Shapiro versus Owens debate? Yeah. Oh, that was another tweet. Yeah, that was another tweet that some people took offense to.
Keaton's sex dungeon is rented, so we're not sure where to put it.
Yeah. That was
rented it to a porn company from the
I
Valley.
said we'll host the Candace Owens versus Ben Shapiro debate if they agree to fuck at the end. And some people thought that is absolutely not offensive to women. If I had said, if Candace Owens agrees to gratify him, and so that would be offensive to women, because I'd be putting pressure on her. I'm saying if they mutually agree. First, I was going to say if they agree to kiss at the end, but I'm like, that's too mild. Fuck is more on brand for us. You know, it's a little dirtier, but not sexist. I maintain not sexist.
Well, I thought it was funny because you said Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens. And if you reflexively saw that as an insult towards women, you probably don't see women as very powerful or having agency, because you remove the man from the equation. Only the woman is being attacked, when clearly we're making fun of both of them.
Oh, the idea is because the joke was that they keep imposing conditions on the other person that the other person's never going to meet. And so I thought, what if I impose a crazy condition on both of them?
Everybody's addicted to being aggrieved.
The mechanics of comedy. Rubber Toe, thanks for the $5. Writing for movies and shows. It's not how good you are, dummies. It's who you know and who you blow. Thank you, Rubber Toe.
Apparently. But it used to be both, didn't it? I mean, it seems like now it's just that.
Brianna Joy Gray, I'm assuming that's a typo, is head of intellectual shitlib web. Thank you, Zach Boyles. Newsom Kushner, 24. Hey, Sparky, how's it going? SB, shout out to the 150 famous Jews who stand by Glazer. Yes, a bunch of Hollywood Jewish creatives defended the Oscar speech, which we were going to get to tonight, but I knew tonight was going to run long, so we'll get to it on Tuesday. Christopher Brie equals garbage. All right, there you go. Thank you for the $20. Appreciate that. Sparky, thanks for the $5. Joe Frazier and Rocky Balboa ain't got nothing on Philadelphia's favorite son, Bibi Netanyahu. Yes.
They're gonna put him at the top of the Art Institute steps, I heard.
Yeah. Outside of a window into PMC thinking, rising blows the people to infinite. Yeah, I don't watch any of these shows really anymore.
Neither do I. Only if we're gonna cover it, which is rare.
Sparky says, glad Matt is finally asserting himself. Maybe the goatee gives him confidence like evil versions of some Star Trek TOS characters.
He's the parallel universe Spock.
The goatee looks a little right-wing, and he's thin, so he's physically healthy. That's also right-wing. So that's two strikes, right? Do all things with love. Thanks for the $5. I've never seen Matt Taibbi and Whitney Webb together at the same time and place. Just saying. Oh, you think one is? You think they're the same person? That would be interesting.
Maybe.
Okay.
Well, that makes one of them trans.
Yeah. Zach, thanks for the $4.99. Brown and Joy Gray also refused to watch any trucker live streams, I guess to maintain the white supremacy and right-winger narratives dominating her content and interviews. Thank you, Zach.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, man. The more you dig into her, the less you're going to like her.
Zionism ruined the reputation of Jews. No one's going to look at the H cost, I'll say, and not think of these people did ethnic cleansing. Well, that's why we speak out as much as we can, because we're Jews. Yep. We don't want it to reflect poorly on Jews. We like Jews. Sparky, thanks for the $2. Breeze using lawyer speak. Yes, that was a lot of lawyering.
Does.
Okay. Kira's friends in Europe. Briahna obfuscating and out lying is her audition for a new show that she wants to bring to MSNBC called Lying with Brie and Jen Psaki. Thank you. Kira's friends, Zach Boyles, was failed candidate and BFF to power Bernie censored. Well, that's a huge thing. I mean, anyway, we don't have to get into it, but I think that's a huge part of it. Kelly Watson, the earthquake was the earthbenders preparing for Day of Black Sun. Yes. There you go. I did not feel that earthquake. I didn't feel that. Some in the Albany area did.
I was here. I really didn't.
How do you have an earthquake that half the people feel and half the people don't? Doesn't the earth shake? Shouldn't everybody feel that?
I mean, I've experienced an earthquake in New York, and I felt it. I thought it was like somebody using a vacuum or something.
Right. Peace Possum having a conversation with Alan. How do you say this?
Ing, I think.
Ing from Film,
right?
From Film Threat, yeah. On the show about what's been going on at Disney would be a great way to shed more light on this subject. Thanks, Peace Possum. Appreciate that. Okay. Joy but a fuckface. Remind me again, Bill Ackman, isn't that the guy who told everyone to get out of hotel stocks in March 2020 and then disclosed he had shorted those very same stocks, making him about $1 billion? I don't know.
That sounds like him.
Sounds like an Ackman.
I'm not aware of that story, but it sounds like him.
Yeah, he's like Newman.
Also, listen, not to jump on, because the same people who talk about George Soros have nothing to say about the Koch brothers or anything, so I'm not jumping on that bandwagon. But you can look it up if you don't know already. I mean, part of how Soros made his fortune was manipulating the currency market and crashing the British pound. These people are all scumbags.
Yeah. Old Stoner, could you imagine bringing the script for Porky's to Disney now? Thank you, wow. Old Stoner.
Russ, it's funny you say that. I hadn't seen it in so long that I watched it a few months ago. And wow, man. Like that movie thought that it was like pro diversity. Meanwhile, and this was typical of a lot of people from the left from the 60s, that they, black power, but hey, honey, can you go get me some coffee? Like the way it treats women is horrible. And in the end, the way it treats black people is horrible, but it thinks it's really liberal. Like it's an interesting cultural artifact if you watch it. I saw it on Prime.
Angry Cabbage, Russell, have you seen Echo? If not, treat yourself to the YouTuber Disparu, who rips it apart at every seam. Interesting.
I saw some of it, man, but I was not putting myself through the whole thing. What's the point?
$1 Million Trooper, kids will like animation whether they understand it or not. I'm about as old as Russ, and I still haven't wrapped my head around the complexities of Speed Racer. I think the Flintstones is like that, because when I watch the Flintstones now, I loved it when I was a kid, and when I watch it as an adult, there's no way I understood it. It's actually not like a children's show.
No, it's the Honeymooners.
It's the Honeymooners, right, exactly. Joy but a fuckface, Keaton P, please keep it on the DL that bagels are still $2. Also, I find it odd that Jews are slow to raise their prices. Perhaps Jew guilt for the whole Gaza thing? I ask Russ for inquiry. No, it's true. Bagels have been stubbornly steady where I am,
it is true now that you mention it. I hadn't really thought about it because I don't have those for breakfast a lot anymore. They make me logy.
Yeah,
But
bagel
yeah,
and
no.
butter is $2. Bagel and cream cheese $3. That really has not budged. Really has not budged. Bill Ackman, Extreme Makeover Gaza Edition. Move that bus. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Okay. Yeah, this is a dark one. Palestinian, I can't wait for a new modern condo courtesy of Israel. Of course, I'll only need 1 bedroom. Yep, I won't read the rest of that but there it is. There's some dark humor.
That's heavy, man.
That's heavy. How about a maximum wage, says Doc Durkin, and a fixed ratio of highest compensated to lowest paid, 100 to 1 seems capitalistic enough, right? Yeah, well, wasn't it? Didn't it used to be, what, 40? 40 to 1?
40, that's what Thomas Frank talks about.
Yeah.
It used to be 40 to 1. And at that time, the car the CEO drove was better, but it wasn't, a fucking rocket ship while you're fucking, using a roach clip to start your battery.
Right. Llama AO, it is still peculiar that Taibbi stays mum on Gaza. No, that's a valid criticism. I wish he had written more about it. But I can't say he's dodging it because where it's come up, he's spoken about it. But sure. I do wish he had written more about it. Including in that interview. Yes. But I do wish he had written. He writes more about it. Absolutely. The Bill Ackman thing, like that's in his wheelhouse. That Bill Ackman's getting people canceled for speech, and I think that's fair. I think that's totally fair. I think she could have had a good segment if she just led with that and then talked about that issue rather than litigate something that had been done and over with a year ago.
Sure. It's not that you can't ask a hard question, but it needs to be an honest, hard question that's not all about your fucking ego.
Right. Yeah. Deb Bree Washerman Schultz, thank you very much for that. Bree should have simply claimed she'd gotten sloppy on her research and profusely apologized, but then she seemed to have an agenda. Well, yes, it was all motivated by agenda, although it was kind of cool. She essentially told Robbie to shut the fuck up. Yeah, that was like a shut the fuck up Donnie moment, yes, indeed. Thanks for the $2, Kira's friends. Let's see. She kept effing with him to prissy weird right winger. That was the implication. Yeah, captured by the right wing. Brianna's thinking of her audience as a jury rather than a news and commentary audience. Exactly. Right. Exactly. Right. Your job as a commentator is not to win every argument, even past when it's lost.
Well, and I think the reason she's so bitter so much of the time is she loses that jury more often than not when she goes on these tirades.
And she's also, hitching your wagon to, if you were press spokesman for the Bernie Sanders campaign, that was a hard fight. And it's a hard fight to lose, especially when you were right on the doorstep of victory and then Obama makes a phone call and you're done. Like, that's a tough loss. But you got to pick up and move on.
You know who it's a really tough loss for? People who didn't fall ass backwards into being fabulously wealthy podcasters.
Oh, no, I'm just saying.
Those are the people it's actually hard for. I don't have a lot of sympathy.
I'm just saying that's where it comes from. That's where it comes from. Like, as a competitor, that is a tough loss, but you just got to move on because as Russell said, like, you're still all right. Just pick it up, move on. It's tough. Not easy, but just do it.
Worked out for you.
Yeah. Bree equals limit of leftism without Marxism. Sorry. Thank you, Sam. No apologies necessary, Sam. You don't have to say you're sorry. Maybe this is naive.
Your dissidence means never having to say you're sorry.
Yes. Maybe this is naive or it's just an impossibility, but why can't Matt or anyone make a precondition of their appearance that you let me finish my thought without interruption and I'll do likewise? I mean, those things, that's a good idea, but those kinds of things go sideways.
It just doesn't happen.
We tell each other that every show, Russell and I. All right, no talking over each other this time. Got it.
Well, if you go back into the archives, we did not know how to do that at the beginning.
Yeah, no, just screaming over each other. Christopher, you guys are killing it. Thank you.
Keaton's description of our early shows is the best. 2 seagulls fighting over the last piece of matzah.
Yeah, 2 seagulls fighting over the last French fry on the beach. That was what I said. Over the last French fry on the beach, yeah. When class shows its ass, says Natalie Williams. Thank you for that very much. Caleb, thank you, Caleb. I'm coming in late, but wanted to support. By the way, I'm wondering how Keaton feels about Richie Torres. Can't get a read on the guy. Good cheer, mates. Yes, that's an inside. That's got to be a joke from my Jose clip. So thank you guys very much for that. Sandy, thanks for the $10. Appreciate that. That's very kind of you. Platitude Platypus, great segment on BJGBS. I see what you did there. Thank you for that. See, I told you that one was going to run long. I told you, Russell, this was going to be a long show because this is the hot topic now. Is whatever. Oh, the kids are talking about this now. Briahna is channeling Ben Shapiro, doubling down Israel style. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, tomorrow we were going to have Ryan Long on, but he's deathly ill. So we're probably going to have Briahna.
Yeah, right. Are we still having him? No, Ryan Long is still on.
He's really sick.
Oh, he's sick.
No, he's really sick. He texted me too.
All right, we'll have to figure out somebody else. I went from declaring Briahna the left to unsubscribing from her completely. Her refusal to let things die is akin to an old ex holding a grudge. Thank you, Ideator. Appreciate that. It's not stupidity, it's ideological, says Sam. Thank you, Sam. Russell, weren't you a Hillary supporter? Oh, did you get your street smarts in the past decade? People can change.
You know what, man? I want to keep it tight, but I'll explain to you exactly how that happened. All right, so because obviously it's something I've given a lot of thought to myself. Remember, when I grew up, the Democrats still had this working class credibility, right? So everyone where I lived was like a blue collar Democrat. So then I go straight from that. I go away to college. And in college, everyone's a Democrat too. So it was very easy to just kind of transition from one to the other without realizing. And I've said before, like, hey, if you wanted to dig enough, you could have gotten into it. But that was definitely why I wound up like a Clintonista, because I transitioned from the idea that the Democrats were this working class party from my neighborhood straight to the Democrats were the party of everyone I was around in college. So, it, and also remember, like back then, everyone felt like they had gotten their asses kicked by the Republicans for 12 years. So it seemed like we really believed at the time, oh, Bill Clinton has solved the riddle of politics with his triangulation, and now we're not going to have any more Reagans. And, most people believed that that was necessary to win because, of course, the troglodytes won't vote for anything else, right? But yeah, it was wrong, man. It was wrong. But I was far from the only person to fall for it back in those days.
Certainly true. Louise Brooks, step 1, end all funding for Israel. Step 2, Israel returns to its original border. Step 3, every country that funded the genocide funds rebuilding Palestine. Step 4, recognize Palestine as a country. There you go. Thank you, Louise. Hey, Louise Brooks is coming to our live show. Thank you, Louise, for buying a ticket. That's awesome of you. Joey, but a fuckface, someone should inform Bill that Jared Kushner has already called dibs on New Gaza. Yes, that's right. Gardner, your show is blossoming like flowers in my garden. Congrats. I may have to retire before 124 to keep up with new material. Preach, Russ. They want us siloed, othering, hating each other, Elizabeth.
Exactly.
Yeah. Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate that very much. Moving right along here. Look forward to Zuck underbidding Ackman's proposal by offering to herd Gazans into his metaverse. Make Gaza meta again. That's a funny one. Make Gaza meta again. Russ, the talentless leaders don't know talent when they see it. Thank you.
It's the Peter principle, but at the end, they can only lose money for so long. That's why I keep saying, in the end, this is all gonna come crashing down, particularly because AI is going to eliminate the barrier to entry. Anyone's going to be able to make a movie in their computer without any actors, budget, anything. You'll still have Hollywood, but it'll be a small player among many options, as it's already become. That's just going to accelerate that even further. All you're going to have Hollywood for is big tech companies like Apple, Amazon are going to gobble up these studios, and they're going to be able to get, high prestige personalities to appear in their work. That's all you would need that kind of capital for.
Dr. Erkin, I think Bree just exposed herself as a Democratic operative. Well, she is a Democrat. I mean, she supports Democrats in primaries. Yeah, I think that's fair. Ackman's plan, gentrification, but just genocide the poors. Yeah. A hand job deserves a shout, says Eric Montag. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Adore Jimmy says, thanks for the $2. Found this channel thanks to JD. Never thought you guys would be subbing for him. It's a beautiful thing. Keep up the great work. I share everything you do and hope the rest of the listeners follow. Well, thank you. That's very kind of you. Appreciate that very much. Okay. Let's get through the rest of these super chats, and then we'll take our intermission, and then we'll get Rumble rants on the other side of the Rumble break because we got our Q&A coming up. Long night tonight, but Q&A lines are about to open up. Christopher, love you guys. Tan Social versus Winter NE. Tanned SoCal versus Winter New England or New York. Okay, there you go.
Northeast.
Northeast. There we go. Northeast. Thank you.
It's pretty chilly here, actually.
Yeah, you had that winter coat on in the In and Out. I'm like, damn. Correction, says Sam. I said she recommended a piece by N. Hannah Jones, who wrote the 1619 Project. Her ideology is creating untenable contradictions. She is smart. Thank you, Sam. Kira, thanks for the $1. Appreciate that. Long story short, if anyone thinks Russell is exaggerating about Briahna, go watch her Valentine's Day special with Katie, Elitism on Steroids.
If I'm thinking of the right one, we covered that, actually. We did a segment on
Did we?
If you're talking about Martini Gate.
Yeah. Katie forgave us for that. I don't know if she forgave us for this, but
she was
forgave us
a
for
good sport. She was a good sport. When we reached out to ask her to come on the show, she actually said, "Can I bring a martini?" So she had seen it, and she was classy about it.
And we all drink martinis.
Yes.
Book smart people uncritically accept the basic premise given to them, then end up wasting their time arguing about how many angels can dance on the head of a pin.
Exactly.
That's a good one, Sparky.
Exactly.
You should memorize that one. You have a lot that you recycle. That's a good one.
Or how many genders can fit on the head of a pin, as the case may be.
You should quote that one, Sparky, and recycle that like you do a lot of other ones. So we shouldn't hold our breath for the DD and Bree collab, Bree Brizzlins. Yeah.
You know what? We invited her ages ago, and we never heard anything back.
Yeah, we have a liaison, but the
yes.
liaison was not able to communicate effectively, apparently. It wasn't the liaison's fault. Thanks, Kira's friends in Europe. Appreciate that. Sparky, street smart people have built-in BS detectors developed through years of survival, so aren't quick to accept premises laid out for them.
That's
Good
it.
one, Sparky.
That's it.
To be honest, when I'm around, Bree never wants to talk about issues. She just says to me, "Take me to Savage Beast." Okay. Sure, Sparky. I bet Kerp can get you in touch with Film Threat. He got us in touch with Ryan and the other guy. Who's the other guy?
He got us in touch with Gary from Nerdrotic, who hopefully we're going to interview.
Yeah, I'll have a lot to say on that one. Let's see.
Who I might interview.
Yes, who Russell might interview. Fun fact, Taibbi went to college at Leningrad University, now St. Petersburg, and worked as a journalist in Russia following the dissolution of the USSR, and also played pro sports in Uzbekistan and Mongolia. Interesting.
Yeah, he played pro basketball.
I might interview Derek Jeter on the show. Yeah.
I'll bow out of that one.
Didn't Briahna herself famously not quit when the Hill fired Katie Halper? What a hypocrite.
Yep.
Yeah, some people, some people were saying that. Some people were saying that. Okay.
It's unbelievable. A lot of people are talking about it. Reading the comments on YouTube of Bree and Matt's conversation is glorious. Absolute annihilation of Bree. Their fans weren't having any of her BS. Thanks for covering this. Yeah, they did catch a ratio on that one. That's what always happens when she pulls this shit.
Yeah. Indeed. Okay, holy crap, says Stoop Sign. Russ just hit the nail on the head about college and street friends. When I went to community college, it was all business. I transferred to a university. The students were vapid and entitled. Oh, yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. I went to college for a year and a half. I was the smartest one there. Everybody else was fucking dumbass. Stoop Sign. I still like Bree, but in a democracy now kind of way, like with Serenity Now. It goes democracy now, hypocrisy later. Oh, by the way, are we doing the Amherst thing, speaking of college, tomorrow?
What?
On Jimmy? The thing I sent you, the New Yorker article? We'll worry about that tomorrow.
We'll talk about it later.
Yeah, who cares? Okay. That's funny. When to Livre, you'll see Virgil, Texas, or Keaton's kids on Bad Faith before you ever see Taibbi again. I'm from Boston, Massachusetts. Can't make it to NYC for your live gigs. I will, however, be watching via Patreon. Oh, thank you, Winnetou Livre. Appreciate that. For some reason, I thought Connecticut, but I guess Boston. Boston is nicer. Boston's way nicer. No insult to Connecticut, but Bree didn't resign after they screwed Katie without a kiss. End of story. Yeah, they did do Katie really bad there. Okay, we're going to take the rest of these Rumble rants over on Rumble. We're going to take a brief intermission now because we got through the super chats and we want to get the phone lines opened up because it is late, as we knew it would be. But we've been on for now exactly 3 hours. So Rumble rants we will take on the other side. There's going to be a 5-minute intermission right now before we continue with a post-show question and answer over on Rumble. So please, folks, continue the evening with us. DoDissidents.com/Rumble. That takes you right over to our live stream. That'll take you to this live stream over on Rumble right now. Thanks to our producer, Jake, for being in the booth with us tonight. Big round of applause for Jake in the booth this evening, fielding those Rumble rants. Huge help, Jake, and for giving us our consultation on what a solar eclipse is. Exactly. Glad you could, glad Jake could clear that up for us. So once again, folks, if you want to come see us live, DoDissidents.com/day show, DoDissidents.com/night show. Those are the links for tickets. But come over on Rumble. Join us for a Q&A. I have a feeling you guys are going to have a lot to say about this. We have to keep calls tight and moving because I suspect we're going to have a lot of calls, but we will take your calls over on Rumble. So right now we are going to take a 5-minute intermission before we continue the party over there. So thank you very much for being here with us this evening. Like I said, oh, there you go. Post-show Q&A coming up in 5 minutes. Be there with us. We got some Rumble rants you got to take care of over there, and we're going to hear from some of our callers. You can chat questions in at Do Dissidents or put a buck or two on it, make it a Rumble rant, so we'll see it nice and easy. We'll see you guys in 5 minutes. Until then, be safe, be well. Thank you very much for this evening.
Courage.
Sorry, hit the courage one more time. I want to put the Rumble link up so people know where to go.
Courage.
Please clap.